You're live. We're live. We are live.
Hello.
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 Hey.
Welcome to the Lucky Hit Podcast, episode 68 on the 27th of April, 2020.
Hey.
I'm the Gagaman.
The year of our...
Hello, Gagaman.
Yeah, I'm the Gagaman, and I'm joined by all these other people, if they want to introduce themselves.
I am CherryT.
I'm Murry Curry.
I'm Hunk Thunder. I'm the Gagaman. Wait a minute, no, I'm Elk.
I'm Elk.
Oh, what's
Hello,
up?
Elk.
This is all confusing.
My name is Gaga Elk.
Okay, Elk.
And I believe we have
thePain.
someone else with us. Hello.
There he is.
How you doing? All good. Is that everyone? Have we
Except
had
for yourself, I think.
Because
Is that really all of us?
we're a little bit confused, aren't we? Because we're missing Shelf Gamer this week.
Yeah, despite me not getting around to taking him off the thumbnail. I don't know why, but I felt a bit bad about it. I was like, oh, should I take him off the thumbnail? Because he's not in this week's one. And I was like, oh, no, I feel a bit bad
I
about
wasn't
that.
sure if I wasn't sure if I should remind you because I didn't know if you were busy or if I thought you already
could
knew
have
and you were
easily
going to do it later.
Yeah, I was going to do it at pretty much the last minute, but I just didn't get around to it.
How's
Whatever.
everyone,
Who really cares enough to complain?
How's everyone been holding up?
Exactly. Yeah, doing
Yeah, all
Yeah.
good.
All things considering, yeah, we're hanging on to our sanity, I think.
Just about.
We're washing our hands.
That we are.
Excellent.
Unless you ran out of hand soap, in which case, God help you.
It's a probability.
I mean, it's pretty easy to find now.
Yeah,
Yeah, people are hoarding the sanitizer, which is less effective than hand soap, anyways. So, really, sanitizer's only for situations where you don't have access to soap and running water.
So yeah, welcome to the Lucky Hit video game podcast.
Right.
I think we should start with what we've been playing, as we always do. So I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll tell you what, I'll do it because it's still the same.
Fair enough.
Judgment? I mean, no, I'm playing
Yakuza?
Judgment. You're playing Yakuza, the remastered.
That's right. I'm still on 5, and I'm still on Haruka / Akiyama's chapter. I was actually quite surprised they threw those two together, because I was spending so long on Haruka stuff, because it goes on. It was fun, though. I didn't realise they had two characters in the same city. That was quite interesting.
Someone's got to do the ass kicking there.
Exactly, yeah. I actually took a video clip because I was really surprised when one of his side quests had him dancing and it looked really goofy.
I remember that. That was fantastic.
So yeah, I'm still playing that. I'm still playing ESO. Still just basically, there's not much more to report on that. I did finish the sort of one of the many main quest lines. It's hard to explain, but basically, when ESO Elder Scrolls Online, by the way, yeah, I shouldn't use the abbreviation in case no one knows what ESO is. But yeah, that was a game that when it came out, it was a very different game to what it is now. It wasn't received too well, and they just basically really worked on it and changed it. A bit like 76, but not quite as bad. So what it was is you had your... it was 9, and they made another DLC pack for the 10 playable races in the Elder Scrolls games. And it was actually split into like 3 different parts of the world, and you picked like your character was part of one of these 3 factions. But yeah, a lot of people like myself were quite annoyed about how you've got basically almost the entire Tamriel world map. It's huge, but you're only allowed to go to like a third of it at a time, for each character. So after a couple of years, they opened it up with I think it was called like Tamriel Unlimited, and basically you got to go, even if you're part of one faction, you're allowed to go across the whole world, basically. So that's really cool, but essentially what that means is for completionists like myself, there's basically like 3 whole games worth of content.
Oh dear.
And that's just a vanilla. There's loads of DLC and stuff as well, because it's an online game. They just keep adding to it every year. So I finished one of those 3 sort of main storylines last week, I think it was, and I've been working a bit more on polishing out this week. So still been doing that, still playing Yakuza Remastered. But I also grabbed Resident Evil 3, and I've given it a quick bash.
Oh, okay.
I really
remake,
like
yeah?
it. Yes, that's right. Basically, I was meant to go to a gig next month, and it got cancelled. So they tried to keep our money for it because of the situation going on. They're like, "Oh no, we can't do refunds," and we sort of kicked up a bit of a stink because that's not on. You can't have our money.
Yeah,
So yeah, to compensate for that gig, I was really looking forward to. I basically just grabbed Resident Evil 3. So been looking for. I wanted to grab it on release, but I just couldn't afford it at the time. Really like it. It's totally different from Resident Evil 2 Remake, which they went out of their way to try and make it relatively similar to the original game, like the map layout and all that kind of stuff. With 3, it's kind of very linear. I heard from loads of people that it was very short, and that was a bit of a disappointment because, again, the 2 Remake is absolutely brilliant, and it's your first couple of playthroughs on that could be quite long.
So wasn't the original short compared to the original version of 2 as well?
The original 2. Yeah, it wasn't massive. It was just a little bit bigger than 1, really.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yes. So
in that sense, being a little faithful, but I can understand why people might feel disappointed, I guess.
I mean, the Resident Evil 2 remake is such a hard act to follow, especially just 1 year later.
Yeah. And the thing is, I absolutely adore the second remake. It is so good. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't want to slag it off. I really like it. But the problem with it is it's so linear that, like, basically, again, it is short because I literally played it for one evening when I got it, and I'm probably about at least 2/3 through the story already, and that was just for one little sitting. That wasn't even like a full-on all-nighter or anything. Because of 2 reasons. One, it's so linear. Like I say, there are some points of the game where it's practically a straight line. Like you go down to the sewers, and it's just there's no like nooks. I think there's like 1 or 2 tiny nooks and crannies that have a few extra items. But apart from that,
oh yeah,
and or cranny.
I remember people had the same problem with Resident Evil 6.
Oh god,
which I have not played, so I'm not entirely sure how I can compare it to Resident Evil 3 Remake.
The thing about 6,
a few obvious outliers.
Yeah, the thing about 6, I really didn't enjoy it. It was full on action and just very little actual Resident Evil. That's almost what they're doing with 3. It's very more action based, but 3 was more action focused anyway. They gave you better weapons, more ammo, and loads of enemies. That was 3 anyway. It was slightly more linear, but there was still that classic Resident Evil formula of exploration and items to find and like keys. I think I once just heard it described as breadcrumb gameplay.
just follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this game just doesn't really have that. It just goes from one situation to the other. And the other thing that makes it very quick as well is zombies just aren't scary anymore. And I don't mean scary as in like, ooh. But in 2, they were a genuine threat because you couldn't just run past them very easily. Like their AI was too good in 2. Like they could. Yeah, they're actually quite cheap. You're skirting around the side of them, and they go yoink and grab you. Well, in 3, they've got the same AI and everything, but you've got this new duck feature, and literally, it's gotten to the point where I'm running. Obviously, Nemesis is chasing me, which is, by the way, is really good. It's very intense, very stressful as well, which is what they're going for with Nemesis and did 2 with Mr. X. He can follow you everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's an even more annoying Mr. X because he can run. God. He can run. He has different weapons throughout the game. He has tentacles.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Right.
And basically, but what the duck feature does is it makes normal zombies just not that big. I mean, they're not that big of a concern anymore. Like, literally, there's a bit where Nemesis is chasing me. There was about 3 or 4 zombies in the way. I literally just went yoink and ducked under and went, "Excuse me, lads." And
so it does make you it does make you duck then, because you were like going, "Oh, the new duck feature." It's like, does that just make you duck? was that not a thing before?
No, what it was in the original 3. but it was a bit clunky and a bit awkward. Basically, you press the aim your gun button or something like that just as an enemy is about to attack, and she'll do this like little duck. And then there's another version of it where you knock enemies out of the way. They've done it in this game, and they've made it a lot easier to do. Like you can just press R1, which isn't actually assigned to any other sort of thing on this game, which is handy because, like I say, in the original, I think you had to press the aims thing. So if you messed it up, you actually just point your gun slowly at an enemy while he nibbles on you. But so in this one, you tap R1 and she'll just sort of duck, and it's actually quite a quick duck. So even if you don't time the, there's lots of times when Nemesis has taken a swipe at me, and I've slightly mistimed it, but I've still gotten away because the duck is that good. Like she sort of ducks down and takes a couple of quick steps. And if you time it perfectly, it does that typical sort of modern gaming thing where it goes in slow mo. That's all right. It goes in like slow motion, and you sort of turn around and get a load of headshots in. It does that kind of thing. But you can also use it as a bit of a speedrun technique because, like I say, in Resident Evil 2, zombies will take a lot of bullets. They'll stand in your way, and you basically have to waste time taking care of them. Part of the that's
Oh, sorry.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I hope you're not hurt.
Yeah, that sounded a bit scary.
It didn't hurt.
Just kicked the desk.
That's all.
So yeah, basically, in 2, it was part of the gameplay that they would take a while to take care of. But in this one, I literally just went, "Excuse me, lads, way," just sort of scooted on past. So
Excuse me, Zambos, I'm a little busy. Don't have enough time to dance with you.
I'm not wasting precious bullets and precious time on you. But yeah, so that's what I've got to say on it. I do like it, but it does suffer from being very action focused, like a bit getting scarily towards 6, and just being a bit too linear. So I'm not going to say I'm disappointed because it is fun. There are the boss fights are actually fun this time. Where in 2 I found them really annoying, simply because. And I was saying this, I was playing it with thePain because I was playing 2 around his. And, I kept saying you need the ability to duck out the way of enemies' attacks because in 2 they kept giving you these tiny little arenas and these huge bosses that could just swing their arm and cover the whole arena, but just because you will get hit. So, it got on my nerves. So it is nice that you can now, from what I've heard on the higher difficulties, you have to master that dodge because enemies, they will keep swinging, and you need to time that dodge. So yeah. I think they've really taken that into consideration. But so boss fights are more fun, which was a weakness of 2. But in doing so, they've made the general gameplay a bit too easy.
It feels like Capcom have a hard time trying to find the right balance with Resident Evil. It's like every other game.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
They keep going too actiony or too slow. Or they seem to keep going back and forth.
Right.
Like they seem to have an existential crisis when it comes to the right balance of action puzzles.
The only game out of the whole series that nailed it for me was 4. That game was just perfect. The combat was fun, but it wasn't like too easy. And the same thing with the enemies. They're quite fun to fight. They don't get boring, but they're also not a pushover, especially on the higher difficulties. And it had that adaptive difficulty. So.
Yeah, now they're planning to remake that. So
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm a bit worried about that one. I'm a bit worried about that one.
A
lot of people aren't really all that excited for the prospect of 4 being remade.
It feels like 2 remake was such a big success that they're just kind of milking it now. It's just so let's just remake them all. We'll remake 5, and then we'll remake 2 again.
I honestly don't get why they don't remake Code Veronica.
That's what they should have done.
Yeah, I thought that
more than 4 does.
Yeah. I would have thought that'd be a no-brainer. But
even Resident Evil 0, even 0 would have been a better candidate for a remake right after 3.
I agree. I don't think they should have done 4 because they're not going to live up to 4. 4 is like Capcom's perfect Resident Evil. It really is. That's why they port it to everything. It's on everything.
It holds up way better than every Resident Evil that came before it.
And in many cases after.
So yeah, that's what I've been playing. I've been playing those 3 again, and I've also just got today Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I'm going to be playing that over the course of next week. So I'll actually have something different to talk about next week. Although I will also be playing Resident Evil 3, and I really am tempted to do some streams of that because
nice.
Yeah, you can see me trying to get the hang of the duck mechanic. Because I feel like I've been I feel like I might have shot myself in the foot by saying, "Oh, it's really easy," so it's too easy, and then I'm going to go on the higher difficulties, and they're probably going to have enemies that stop you from ducking and stuff like that. Probably going to shut me up.
They have a new anti-duck technology.
Yeah. They literally just scoop you up as you're trying to jump. So there we go. Yeah, that's me.
They attack low. That's my anti-duck measures in fighting games.
They boot you up the arse when you try to do it.
What are you doing?
They launch you and air juggle you like it's Marvel versus Capcom.
I mean, you could play as Jill Valentine in that.
Yeah.
That's true. And then Nemesis was an MVC3.
Yeah, he was in one, wasn't he? Yeah.
Ultimate MVC3.
That's it. Yeah. I never actually got to pick that one up. That got rare almost immediately.
I did. I was majorly disappointed with MVC3.
I thought it was alright. I thought it was alright. It wasn't as good as 2, but it was good enough for its time. But so who wants to go next with what they've been playing?
Well, I'll go next.
Fair enough.
I'll go next.
There's some fun.
So,
what's that?
You alright?
We're all tumbling around.
Yeah, stop it. Let me speak. I've been playing. Lately, I've been playing. I turned on the King of Fighters 14 and SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy lately.
Okay.
SNK Heroines being for the Nintendo Switch, and then the King of Fighters 14 was on PlayStation 4. But I did also get the Steam version recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sweet.
14 is because I always get confused which one's which. 14 is the latest one, or is that the one before the latest? Is that the other 2D
14
one?
comes after 13.
I know that, but what I mean,
kidding.
what I mean is there was the two
yes, 14,
beautiful sprite-based
14
ones,
is the
wasn't there,
latest
on
one,
PS3,
yes.
and then I think they may have ported them to Steam. And then
the
latest
ones
3D,
that were made.
But which
the
one's
ones
the
that
latest
were
one
made
is
for
what I'm
PS.
saying. Is it 14?
Maybe. Yes, 14 is the latest one. That one's a 2D game like every main game before it, but it has 3D graphics.
Yeah, that's what I
meant. Yeah. So one of my New Year's resolutions this year was to get back into fighting games again and try to be able to play them on a professional level again, or at least close to that. Because I played them a lot when I was a teenager, and I was really good at them. I played all sorts. King of Fighters, Street Fighter, Virtua Fighter, you name it. Tekken, Soul Calibur, Samurai Showdown. So I'm getting back into all that stuff now, and I guess I started with King of Fighters 14 and SNK Heroines.
Must be tough to get back into because they're the sort of games that are really.
Yeah. But I do like to spend a long time with them to just practice and try to get the most out of the game that I can and learn things that I didn't know about before.
The good thing about King of Fighters games is they have the most recent ones have had really bloody good tutorial sections, really detailed.
That's true, and the King of Fighters 14, as it stands, is probably one of the most beginner-friendly games in the whole series, to my knowledge, anyway.
Yeah,
there's a lot of systems in there that help ease you into it and make combos a lot easier to pull off. But of course, at the same time, King of Fighters 14 also has a ton of brand new characters that were made just for this game. So there's a lot of knowledge you can't really apply to any past games in the series. Maybe future ones, but there's a lot of characters.
Just stick to Terry. Just have 3 Terrys on your team.
You can't pick the same character twice, but there's still plenty of returning favorites that if you just want to stick to what you know. The entire Fatal Fury team is there. Rio, Robert, and Yuri on the Art of Fighting team. You got the entire Japan team, which is Kyo, Goro, and Benimaru. And then, of course, the classic Psycho Soldier team, Athena, Kenso, and Chin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I think what sets this part is actually no. King of Fighters 13 had this too. This one has a story mode with cutscenes that go a little more in depth into the overarching story of what's going on. The other King of Fighters games, while they didn't have a story mode, they had the cutscenes as well, which most people didn't see because most people suck at those games.
That'll be,
I mean, usually the cutscenes are just sort of like midway through the arcade mode or something.
Yeah, and most people probably aren't going to know which ones are canon anyway, because the story changes depending on what characters you pick. And then the story is completely nonsensical if you make up your own team instead of using a pre-assigned team or one of the secret teams. But anyway, King of Fighters 14, that game is a lot of fun. I actually pre-ordered that game on the PS4. I got the special edition, and yet I never actually spent much time with it until almost 5 years after it came out, which is pretty amazing to me.
Has it really been out that long already?
Yeah, I blame the Yakuza series. Yakuza 0 came out soon after that, and I got
that explains it all.
That'll do it.
I saw a brilliant video yesterday of Yakuza 0 in a nutshell. It was just... Every time they showed off like a quick clip of a minigame, it just showed the guy's total playtime increased by like 40 hours. And I was like, yeah. Gonna race some toy cars? Oh, you better get yourself set down. This is not gonna pass quickly. Sorry, carry on.
It's all right. That was basically my story with Yakuza 0.
Yeah, I haven't moved on.
But anyway, onto SNK Heroines. That one is the most misunderstood fighting game I've played in such a long time. It really annoys me that most people wrote this game off believing that either it's too sexist or it's baby's first King of Fighters because of the simplified control scheme. So but two things, okay? One, neither of those things are true. And second, having a simplified
control... It's not sexy at all.
You know what, though? Most of the characters in the game, their default outfit isn't even a bikini. One of them, her Mui Mui, I believe it was. Mui Mui's.
That's not like fighting angels, then.
Nah, it's a lot more tasteful than that, but probably a lot sillier.
I mean, you get sillier than a game that just lets you get a sword and then just immediately kill your opponent.
Well, you know what? Nakoru's in the game, and she has a blade.
Yeah,
and also, one of the DLC characters in the game is Jean from World Heroes, and she has a broadsword.
That'll do.
But as I was about to say, I believe it's Mui Mui. Her default outfit is actually a large Victorian dress. You can't even see her legs.
God, what are they doing?
I am disgusted.
But you can see her arms. Oh, don't let your kids see this game. But anyway, I was going to say, just because a game has a simplified control scheme doesn't mean it has no depth to it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the case with SNK Heroines, without a doubt.
I mean, does that game play in some way a bit like Pocket Fighter in any way?
A bit like what?
Pocket Fighter?
Pocket Fighter.
Is it similar to that? Because that was like a simplified Street Fighter style.
Kind of, but it's a little more... It's a little less straightforward in some ways than Pocket Fighter was.
Fair enough.
In Pocket Fighter, for example, your opponent is finished off simply by emptying their health gauge, like it is in any fighting game. Mm-hmm. In SNK Heroines, that does not happen. You can only beat your opponent by using a finishing move on them. So the way it works is most attacks... Yes, you have to. The way it works in this game is that most attacks are consolidated to a single button. You have a button for regular attacks, which you can press it multiple times to change into combos. You have a button for special attacks. You have a button for finishing moves. You have one button for tagging in your partner, which you're going to need to do several times. You pick up items during the match, which I guess is also like Pocket Fighter. Yeah. And you activate the items using the right analog stick. So, yeah, so the way it works is...
going on by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and that's not even all of it. Wow. So you do different attacks based on what direction you hold on the stick when you press an attack button, similar to Super Smash Brothers. So it's up. So you have to figure out how to use that to chain different attacks together into combos. And on top of that, when you use a special move, it depletes your special meter. So when it gets lower and lower, your attacks become weaker until it gets to a point where you can't use them at all. And the only way to refill it is to attack, which refills it slowly, or to switch out your partner who has their own special meter. And then the other one will just will have their special gradually fill up while they're in reserves. And on top of that, both of your characters share the same health pool. So you can't just switch to the other character when their health is too low and go to the other when their health is high. But they don't share their special meter.
Doesn't sound too simplified to me.
Oh no.
Simplified by King of Fighters standards, maybe.
Yes. Okay.
People just look at, it's got a simplified control scheme, and they think it's like, anybody could play this game. This game's for babies. Super Smash Brothers isn't even like that. People who say that don't even play these games, I swear. But the last thing is that you finish off your opponent by whittling down their health to a certain degree to when they're you put them in a weakened state, and you know that happens when you hear bells chiming in, very ominous bells.
Oh boy.
And after that, you just have to hit them with a finishing move, but they can still block it or they can still dodge. If you completely empty their health, they'll be stunned for a couple of seconds, and then they'll be completely open to a finishing move.
Right.
But because your characters don't share the same special meter, you have to really pay attention to which character has enough special meter to actually use a finishing move, because it takes a ton of energy, so you don't want to miss.
Yeah, I'll be terrible at this. I don't know why it is, but it's just fighting games are like my weakness. I'm just really bad at them.
Yeah, this one takes a while to adjust to, but I really like it just because it forces me to really think differently about how I approach the game.
A bit more strategic than your usual. Like, you can't just bash buttons and get through it.
Yeah, I welcome the challenge in games that do things like that, and just
it's not so much about knowing all these complicated button combinations. It's more about knowing what button to press when.
Exactly. And I welcome that kind of challenge. Right. There was another fighting game I have to get back into that did something very similar. It was an indie game called Dive Kick.
Oh,
you ever heard of this game?
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
I love that game.
Yes, I really love this game.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's a great example. That's a great example of a simplified thing, but it's really actually strategic.
That is such an amazing example. For those who don't know about Dive Kick, essentially this game is a lot more simpler than SNK Heroines. Your only actions in this game are to jump straight up and to do a diving kick. And it only takes one hit to finish off your opponent. So you just have to make sure you dive kick at the correct time, and make sure you know the angles and specific gimmicks of whatever character you're playing as.
It sort of teaches you some of the inner workings of the basics of a fighting game, though. It's all about spacing.
It really does.
It's all about where you are on the screen and your distance from each other and all that kind of stuff. It teaches you all the sort of advanced stuff that you don't even really think about with fighting games when you're casually playing them. But it forces you to think about that kind of stuff because you're not worrying about complicated like shuriken commands and all this kind of stuff. You're just pressing a button or 2 buttons.
Right. And that's what I love about the game. It's one of the most clever fighting games I've ever played. They really thought outside the box with this one. And so, SNK Heroines is a lot more complicated than that, but it's still a good example of doing something out of the usual conventions and still making it a really fun fighting game that not only that anyone can pick up and play, but you could get a lot of strategy out of it. Yeah. And in fact, I guess the Super Smash Brothers series would also be a great example of that as well.
Yeah. I've always found Smash to have a very strange control scheme.
It's very much of its thing. I don't know how they came up with it. It is its own game in a lot of ways.
It's hard for me because I'm not very good at it because it's a fighting game. But it's like when I try to explain the controls to other people, I just go, "Oh, just."
That's where you control about.
Wiggle the right stick a lot.
Yeah, I probably have an easier time explaining SNK Heroines than Super Smash Brothers to anyone who's never played a Super Smash Brothers game, or even like a.
You don't have to. You don't have to attempt to explain Smash Brothers. Please don't. We'll be here all night.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not going to explain that. Yeah. I mean, I have been playing it lately. I've played it over the weekend for those Trials of Mana spirits. But I don't need to talk about
spirits,
that.
Blimey.
Yeah, this
adding
weekend,
spirits, I'm really behind.
This weekend they added 3 spirits from Trials of Mana.
Oh, cool.
But if you miss the event, they'll be added to the game proper later on, so you'll be able to
I think
you'll be able to see them in the shop or in the spirit in the spirit board. Yeah, so like they did the same thing with Pokemon Sword and Shield after that came out. I missed that event, but eventually I found the Score Bunny, Grookey, and Sobble spirit in the spirit board.
I think the last event that I managed to actually catch was the one where they straight up just put Tetris pieces, which I thought was brilliant.
I
still want a Tetris piece to be playable though.
Oh, there's been a bunch more since then. There's been a Kunio-kun spirit event.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
There's been Resident Evil spirits.
Yeah, I grabbed some of those. Yeah.
There's been a Cuphead spirit event too. After yeah, I think it was sometime after Cuphead was released on Nintendo Switch.
I definitely got a lot to catch up on.
Although it was after the costume, but the interesting thing about it was for the Cuphead spirit battle, I think you fight Mega Man in that battle if you don't have the Cuphead Mii costume, but if you did buy it, then your opponent is instead a Mii gunner wearing the Cuphead costume.
Yeah, I bought that costume. That was one of the only ones I have bought, actually.
Yeah, I didn't buy it yet. Maybe sometime later. But then the last games I want to talk about was I explored my house to see to look in my old N64 collection because I remembered I had a few more games in there that I never took out, so I've been playing 2 sports games that that I'd completely forgotten for years that I had, which were NBA Hang Time and Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if we got any of those.
Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey was quite popular over here.
We got that, did we? Oh, okay.
Oh, you did get Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I don't know if you got the NBA games.
I don't think we did.
We don't tend to get a lot of those, do we? Or at least not.
Well, not back then, but now it's.
Yeah, we get the main year ones, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get those. Did you not get the NBA Showtime or NBA Hoops on the Dreamcast?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh, you did get those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they did come out.
Yeah. I learned that NBA Jam had kind of an interesting history where Midway as you well know, they made the original NBA Jam, but Acclaim had the rights to make the console versions of the NBA Jam series, along with other Midway games like Mortal Kombat. And then when Midway split off from... Sorry about that, my phone was vibrating.
Nope.
When Midway split off from Acclaim got the exclusive rights to the name NBA Jam. So they made a couple of their own NBA Jam games after that. They made NBA Jam Extreme on the Sega Saturn, which I guess also had an arcade version, but most people didn't like that one as much as the actual NBA Jam. They did NBA Jam 99 and 2000, and then they did a reboot in the early 2000s right before they shuttered, as well as a few spin-offs like a College Slam. And I guess the Space Jam video game is kind of related. And then Midway, they did NBA Hang Time, which is pretty much NBA Jam, just they couldn't use the name NBA Jam. And then the original developers of NBA Jam, who made that and Hang Time, they would also later go on to make NBA Showtime, NBA Hoops, NBA...
This is the most I've heard the word NBA said in the short space of time in my entire life.
The NBA Ballers series. So all of those games were based off of NBA Jam's framework, which I had no idea. Well, I knew about NBA Showtime, but not any of the others.
Okay.
And then Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey was also Midway games, but Acclaim never had the rights to that one.
Say NBA 5 more times.
Do it.
God.
NBA, 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 NBA.
NBA.
Done it.
And then, of course, unlike the fighting games, I kind of suck at NBA Jam.
I could never get my head around it.
Not so much Wayne Gretzky for some reason.
Hockey games are quite simplistic. They're essentially the same as soccer or football games in a way.
Especially an arcade hockey game like Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey.
Basketball's just got so much more like sort of complexity to it, I suppose. I guess it's just because I'm white.
Yeah.
It's because I'm white.
Yeah, kind of.
I don't understand basketball. It's not even in video game form.
Do you know what's always
it's all right.
Surprised
but
me?
It's funny though. I had NBA Hang Time on N64 growing up, but I remember I never actually played the game. And I have no idea why, because I was a huge basketball nerd when I was a kid. I used to play Little League basketball. I played other basketball video games. And of course, Space Jam was one of my favorite movies growing up. But for some reason, I completely avoided NBA Hang Time until now.
Oh, speaking of Space Jam, that's on Netflix right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
I haven't seen that since I was a child.
And then the movie came back in vogue recently because when the NBA shut down their season because of a certain health crisis, people suddenly remembered that the exact same thing happened in Space Jam because the aliens were taking the NBA players' talents and nobody knew why. So they thought it was like a virus or something that was doing it. So they suspended the NBA season for the safety of all the players.
That's the plot to Space Jam.
So that's what the vaccine's going to be. We're going to have to play a game of basketball in space. Is that how we're going to get out of this?
I guess.
Obviously.
Yeah, we need to beat the virus in a basketball game. And the virus has the talents of like the virus stole the talents of people like who's a basketball player today?
I only know Shaquille O'Neal. That's about my knowledge.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
He's been out for a while, but
Yep.
now
he's a meme.
You know what? Shaq isn't even in NBA Hang Time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Midway didn't have the rights to use Shaq's name and likeness up until NBA Showtime. And by that point, they made a point of having Shaq on the cover of both that game and NBA Hoops.
Do I got a weird well, not really off-topic thing, but earlier this week I rewatched the film Shaolin Soccer, which is one of my favourite films.
That film was fantastic.
I always wanted to watch that movie.
And I'll definitely do it. But I was saying, why haven't they made a game of this?
Yeah.
I mean, Midway did make a arcade soccer game called Red Card, which is like it's like NBA Jam but for the International Soccer League. But this one wasn't available in arcades; it was only on consoles. And I think it had a different name when it was released in Europe, but I don't remember what it was.
Nah, me neither.
I can't recommend Shaolin Soccer enough. It's one of the best films ever made. It should definitely be a film. Sorry, a game.
Yeah, I'm surprised that never happened.
I know, it would be perfect, wouldn't it?
I can think of a couple similar soccer games. I think Sega made one at one point.
There was that Sega Soccer Slam on the
Sega
GameCube.
Soccer Slam. But again, I've never played that game, so I wouldn't know for sure.
Yeah, I never played it myself.
Plus, I know there is a football game coming out for the Switch that's based on an old anime, and I think that's probably
Captain Tsubasa.
That's it, yeah. And judging by how over the top that is, that's probably the closest thing you're going to get to like a Shaolin Soccer game at this point in time.
Yeah, probably. It figures. Captain Tsubasa is still very popular in Japan to this day,
and a big chunk of Europe.
Oh, were they showing it in Europe?
Yeah, not in the UK, but like I think Italians and Spanish and all that, they love it. They've had it since like the early 90s, or maybe even the 80s.
That series, to my knowledge, never really took off here.
Nah, there's a lot of anime that was just massive in Europe because they just got it and we didn't.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I guess that's it for me. So, one of you guys can take it from here.
Where the alright if I went next?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know I say...
No, shut up.
I know I say I'm going to be
Go on.
quick, but usually I go off tangent, but basically my copy of Pokemon Sword arrived, and I've made a start with that.
Excellent.
Yeah, I watched your live stream of that game.
Yeah, I managed to get in most of that.
Oh, nice.
I
really like the look of it, like graphically and how colourful the game is. It looks lovely.
Why would that Pokemon trainer want to leave that beautiful house? Like, just stay there. Look at it. Look at it.
Oh, just all the little details were setting me off. So, like I was blooming.
You spent half of that stream going, "Oh look, that's a cute bin."
That's a cute bin. That's a. Oh, that Costa looks exactly like a real life Costa.
Yeah, it does look. It's a really nice game to look at. I only really dabbled in Pokemon, but that game is definitely one I'm kind of interested in jumping into.
Well, despite all the controversy around like the whole Dexit, which is basically only including like some of the Pokemon and then omitting a lot of others, but then Sun and Moon did that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only way you can get a national Dex in that is using Pokemon Bank.
Yeah, I heard about that. Although there's going to be a DLC pack later, which is going to add, I think, 200 old Pokemon that aren't in the game already.
Yeah, the expansion pass, and I think it will actually just patch the old, like the 200 extra Pokemon in. So even if you don't have the expansion, you still get those additional Pokemon.
Yeah, and if anyone else has those Pokemon, they can trade them to you even if you never bought the expansion passes.
Yeah, so as soon as the patch comes out, you'll be going, who's got this one from one of their old games? Can I has?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm finding it really nice to play. As you could probably tell from the stream the other day, like it feels as traditional Pokemon as it can be, like with all the different moves and.
The fact that these Pokemon can only remember 5 things, and if they remember more than 5 things, they have to push it out of their brain.
And it's
I believe it's 4 things.
Yeah.
Oh God.
There's like similar things like that you can do to I think it was Eevee and Pikachu that where you actually see them spawn rather than just bumping into a bit of grass and like, oh, here's another screen. Like it does. Yeah, they actually do spawn out the ground and
kind of like Let's Go. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other things you can do.
That's a change I do approve of.
One of the things you can do is it does things like you're like sort of sneaking up against or like all the Pokemon actually follow you if they're curious about you.
Like, please catch me, please beat me up and catch me.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
I always liked RPGs where you, what's the word? Instead of random encounters with steps, I like it when you can see the enemies on the field.
Oh, like Is.
Yeah.
And, I always preferred that.
Yeah, it was Is. Ni no Kuni did that as well.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Earthbound was the first RPG I played that did it.
And I really liked Wild Arms 3. It had a system where it's got the random encounters with steps, but you can save these gems, and like when the encounter's about to happen, you get like an exclamation mark appear. If you press a certain button, you can actually skip the encounter.
Yeah. And one of the other little improvements from like say previous entries like Sun and Moon, it's like trainer customization. Because in Sun and Moon, they had like a sort of like a basic character customization where you have like different hairstyles and like a few hair colours, and you can change your eye colour and lipstick and that. Though in Sword and Shield, they've improved on that. So there's like more hair colours, and it's come to a point where I've made my trainer look more like me than in previous games. Yeah,
I saw that. That's pretty impressive. I know I'm gonna do that when I get that game.
Yeah, it's much more than you can do in like Sun and Moon. Because in that one, I had to settle for like a wine red colour, and it's more like purple.
Yeah, they're definitely getting better with the customization with each game, as they should be, really, I suppose, especially when they've got like all the online raid stuff going on now.
Yeah.
Like the Dynamax raids and all that stuff.
Like, being able to tell who's who.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's that whole thing where you sort of like take it's kind of like a little card photo of yourself, don't you? And then you put like all filters on it as if it was like Instagram or something, and then you can share that with other players as well.
Yeah, the cards,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, you haven't even got into like the online stuff yet, but I think that's got to actually be a bulk of your time on it.
Not so much. I did try surprise trading. And so far so good. I haven't had anything crash my game yet, so...
Surprise crash.
No, there was...
it is a surprise.
Yeah.
No, there was a bit of a problem where any Pokemon that people were, like, sort of making with, like, PK Hex, or the hacking program, was causing their Sword and Shield games to crash, like, after getting them in a surprise trade.
Oh, right. I've heard of this before.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to be a bit careful with that, because unlike Sun and Moon, which doesn't seem to have any kind of regulation anymore, obviously in Sword and Shield it's gone a bit sharper.
Because it's a sword.
Yeah.
You don't have a shield.
No, I'm always attacking rather than defending in RPGs, so...
I guess it makes sense to get that one then.
I mean, in most random encounters, you don't really need to be too strategic anyway. You're just wasting time.
Yeah, like grinding and all that. I look forward to all the grinding.
That sounded sarcastic, but you did put how many hours into Sun Ultra Moon?
Oh, we must have been about 130 something by now.
Yeah.
And I started that in like February.
Yeah, so I can imagine it's going to be another one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of it as far as games are concerned. Then just the usual, like Dr. Mario World, Pokemon Go here and there, and that's it.
Excellent. I would say the Sword. It's Sword, isn't it? Yeah, I'd say that alone is a massive game.
Yeah, it's going to be. We're going to try and do at least one stream a week for it, I think. But we're not going to do the entire story on stream. I guess just. Yeah, you'll play it in your own time, and then when we go on stream, I guess you could just update on where you are and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the whole thing will take a very long time, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah, just take a bit of time to show us your progress, and that should be cool.
I did I think I already did beat Nessa, so I'm sort of in the third town now.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
I'm trying to build up for the next gym.
Okay, I guess I'll go next for what I've been playing. Asphalt 9 as usual, because I wasn't playing that. They've actually been doing a special event on there that's actually a really generous and pretty good one. Basically, you don't even have to win the races in the special event. You just compete in them and they just shower you with stuff. So it's just like, yeah, that's good. I'll just play that over and over again, because it lets you it just basically every time you do it, every time you play the same race over and over, it's just like, oh, here's another 10,000 coins. It's like, yeah, thank you. This is worth it. This is much better than playing online and just barely getting anything for it. So yeah, that's been good. I've also been playing another cheapo game that's reduced at the moment on the eShop. I'm not even sure how you pronounce this one, but it's dropped to 99p at the moment. It's like
you're starting to cut out more and more now.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Halfway.
Yeah, seems to always do that when I'm about to speak. I'll just disconnect real quick. Right, let's see if that's better.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah. So as I was trying to say, we've got I picked up another cheap, reduced to 99p puzzle game on the eShop. I'm not really sure how you pronounce this one. It's called like it's UORiS.
UORiS DX.
I got no clue.
Stalling.
It's Tetris, but with like fish, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's like when you first look at it, it's like, oh, this is just Tetris. It just looks like a Tetris clone. But the Tetris pieces are made of like different kinds of fish, and it's a bit hard to explain, but basically it looks like Tetris, but there's two elements to it. You can still clear lines like you would Tetris normally. The Tetris pieces, I suppose most of them are like Tetris pieces, but they're obviously not because they haven't got the rights. They're like different shapes and stuff. But the main mechanic of it is when you're clearing lines, if that line has all the blocks fish faces in the same row, then every single block around of that creature's head or whatever will disappear as well. It's a bit hard to explain, but yeah, it's I'm trying to think how to it's so basically you don't want to play it like Tetris. It looks like Tetris, and as soon as you play it, because it's got quick dropping and all that, so it really feels like Tetris. It's even got its own equivalent of like T-spinning, but you can do it with pretty much every piece, I think. So yeah, when you first play it, it's like, oh, I'll just play this like Tetris, it's easy. And then they start throwing down like these gigantic pieces that take up like half the screen, and you're like, what do I do? what how am I supposed to do anything against this? But yeah, once you get used to the fact that you have to like line up all the faces on the blocks into rows, and then you can sort of clear stuff much better that way. It actually clears more than just a line, then it will clear potentially more lines as well. Yeah, and it's got like a sort of one of those like puzzle modes where you just got to do one move, and it's pretty much you get each shape, and then you pretty much have to just like T-spin them into holes, and the timing of it is because the block drops down so slowly, it's like a pixel at a time. You can literally just time these like T-spins like perfectly. It's just like you're just lining it up, and you just blink, and it's really satisfying to just do these little it's like, oh, I'm a master of T-spins now, except I'm not because it's different shapes.
So it's got this like chill like music as well, isn't it?
Oh god, yeah. The
sounds
music's
like
super chill.
It sounds like a Tears for Fears song though.
Does a little bit.
But then it's also got like a blooming energetic song for like when you go through like menus and that.
Yeah, for some reason the music's really energetic when you're selecting your difficulty. It's like and then you click on it and it's just like but the game's actually kind of stressful at times because of those giant pieces. But it's one thing I quite like is it's got online rankings on it, and literally within my first go I think I was already in the top 150. So I presume that means not a lot of people bought it, unfortunately. But I mean, as I say, it's 99p at the moment, so instead of like I think £7, something like that. But yeah, I like finding little bargain games like that, as you know, with the eShop Car Booty series. I'll probably do another one of those soon when there's more than just a couple games on there. But yeah,
cool.
What else?
I imagine the name.
Sales finished.
I imagine the name is what kept a lot of people from learning about it, because it's hard to search for.
Exactly, yeah. Like unless it shows up on the eShop near the top, which it won't because it's not popular, you're not really gonna know about it. It's just where I saw it on Deku Deals, clicked on it, watched like a YouTube video about it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's got to be worth £1. And I've already put at least a couple hours into it, so yeah, it was worth £1. Like, £1 is not a big gamble for like trying something. If it turns out bad, it's £1, you know. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But by that notion, I've also ended up with this massive backlog of games on my Switch now. I've just got like so many games I haven't finished. It's ridiculous. But you know, most of them are like little puzzle games like this. I also played a little bit of Pacman Championship 2, Championship Deluxe 2, because it's currently free on Steam and the PS4 and Xbox, I believe.
Yep.
So I grabbed that. Sorry, did you?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I thought you cut off. I thought you were going to say something, but yeah.
Yeah, I was, but I'll just let you finish talking about the game.
Fair enough. I haven't put a lot of time into it yet. Absolutely loved the first one. Championship Deluxe was just an amazing game. This one, I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet. It's very different. They added a lot of stuff and changed a lot of the mechanics in a way that I'm not sure yet. I think I need to play more of it to really confirm, but it just feels like they're just slapping a load of weird new mechanics on it, and I'm not sure how many of them make sense. Like, for example, there used to be like just a normal lot of ghosts running around at the same time as the ones that chase you around in like a train, but in the sequel there's only one running around, and this just took me off guard even in the tutorial when I first found it, because they force you to play the tutorial, which is a good thing because I would have had no idea what I was doing otherwise. For starters, you can touch the ghost. It's a Pac-Man game where you can touch the ghost. You can sort of like bump into them so many times before they get angry with you. So like even if they're getting in your way, you can just sort of like push them out of the way for a second. But if you bump into them like more than, I think it's like 2 times within a quick succession, they like just get really annoyed and start chasing you. But like, yeah, really fast. But then there's loads of other strange stuff that they've just changed to it, and yeah, I'm not really sure yet. I'm gonna have to play more of it, but it doesn't feel as intuitive as the first one. It feels like they've just added a lot of strange stuff just for the sake of adding strange stuff. I don't know. It kind of like some of the other like spin-offs from the arcades, like Super Pac-Man and Pac-Man Jr. and all that kind of stuff, where they just like added all these strange mechanics that don't really make sense until you've played it for a while. So as I say, I'll need to play more of it to see if it starts to click, but so far it hasn't quite clicked yet. I don't know. It's a strange one. It's hard to explain. It's just the original game had such a good like flow to it, and I don't know if this one has that. I just feel like they maybe added too much, but as I say, I'll play more of it and I'll see how I get on with it.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think that's mostly what I've been playing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I've played a lot of...
Other than lots of Splunky, because I've been practicing that in between the streams as well, because I'm still trying to...
Oh, that's true. I saw that live stream too.
Sorry, just a little bit of interesting news.
Okay.
While you were talking about interesting puzzle games, I just remembered I still want to grab Tetris Effect, so I thought I'd have a look at how much it is on PS4. It's only 50% off at the moment.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
We're going to grab it.
Yay!
Do it.
I still want to play that. I still really want to play that.
I need to experience it in VR.
Yeah, if you can get your VR set out, that's going to be the way to play it.
Yeah, we're going to grab that now.
Nice one.
I thought I'd mention that it's 50% off on PS4, so it's gone down from 35 quid to 17.50, which is pretty good because that game's not coming down in price otherwise.
Okay, nice.
Pretty chuffed about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Speaking of which, I have actually play a little bit of Tetris 99 this week as well, because they're doing another one of those tournaments where you unlock a new theme.
Oh, right.
And I think the latest one is for Ring Fit Adventure. So it's like, hey, have a theme for this game you can't buy. Just to wind you up some more that you can't own this game, you know? It's just like...
Enjoy it vicariously.
Basically, yeah. It didn't take me long to get the 100 points, I suppose. So I only put like an hour or so into that. But it's nice to go back to that again. It's still probably one of my top games on the Switch, full stop, because it's just such a good version of Tetris. Probably one of those games I'll be going back to.
It is a
forever.
good game, but I haven't really gotten into it as much as I thought I would. It kind of just got old after a while for me anyway.
It's actually overtaken Puyo Puyo Tetris on my Switch now, because they do them daily things on there now where you can save up tickets as well if you haven't got all the themes. But I have actually unlocked all the themes now, so I haven't really got much to do now other than get first. That's pretty much the only thing I need to do now to pretty much 100% this game, more or less. And I haven't got first on the hardest CPU difficulty yet either. But other than that, my best ranking so far is second. So,
Nice.
It always varies though. It always goes up and down. I can be 80th one round, I can be 20th the next, and 70th, then third. It goes all over the place.
Second or third once. We got. I think it was second.
Yeah, sometimes you just get lucky.
You did actually win some kind of Tetris 99 online tournament, didn't you?
You did?
Yeah,
Twice.
well, basically, I did twice. Basically, what that was is when you... Those kind of tournaments, they're the ones I always sink lots of hours into. That's where most of the hours that I've got on that game are. Is every 100 points you get in those tournaments, they put you into a raffle, and 999 players will, like randomly picked players, will win £9.99's worth of gold coins for the eShop. And I've managed to win that twice. So Tetris 99 is the best game ever because it has earned me £20. Like I can't think of any other. Yeah, it was free. I did end up buying the physical version, but I got it quite cheap as well without the online pass on it. So it's just the cartridge, so I could have the offline stuff as well. But that didn't cost me a lot. But basically, I profited on that game. It's like I can't think of any other game that I've made money on. It's like just for playing it, not even necessarily being good at it, just playing it, just playing it a lot and getting lucky.
£20 could buy you another year of Nintendo Switch Online, right?
Yeah, 20 quid could buy me 20 cheap eShop games, which you kind of have.
Keep the series going.
Yeah,
exactly. I'd call that a better investment.
Yeah.
But without Nintendo Switch Online, you can't really play Tetris 99.
No, we got to play ours with one of the trial membership things.
Yeah, there's that offline endless mode, but you can. Puyo Puyo Tetris has that as well.
Yeah.
Every other Tetris game has it.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been playing mainly.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Right. Well, I've been playing. Well, obviously, I've played Animal Crossing a lot still. I'm now up to like 220 hours.
Oh wow, nice.
So yeah,
it's one of those games. It's definitely a sponge.
Game. Had the same thing with like Stardew Valley. Yeah,
it's definitely one of those.
Yeah. I believe I've heard that Animal Crossing New Horizons just recently outsold Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yep.
Seriously?
Oh, wow.
It's the highest selling.
Whoa.
It is currently the highest selling Nintendo Switch game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Wow. I'm not surprised because I go on all of my social media feeds and everything is Animal Crossing still. It never stops.
Yeah, still.
Yeah, so
I mean, I'm glad people are happy with it, but please stop talking about it every 5 minutes for the end of time.
No.
Moving on.
Anyway, in non-Animal Crossing news, go on, Elk.
That's like asking people to stop making fan art of Animal Crossing.
That too. It's like even when they run out of things to draw, it's like, oh, let's come up with this thing where it's album covers, but it's KK Cider on album covers, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's like they're just finding excuses to draw more Animal Crossing. It's like, let's make another meme where something Animal Crossing.
I feel attacked because I'm trying to do something like that. I'm just trying to decide on what album cover. Maybe I'll do London Calling by The Clash.
I can imagine that. Just dedicated the whole guitar special.
That'd be pretty cool, actually. You should do that.
It would. It would. I'd love to do that. I'd actually love to go to the... I think there was a Clash museum or something, or a rock museum, where they actually have a prop of the guitar being suspended in the air, so you're just supposed to hold on to it like you're slamming it on the ground, and you get your
that's
picture
really cool.
taken. I've seen pictures of that. It's really cool. I want to do that. My guitar is way too expensive for me to actually do that with it.
So other than Animal Crossing, what have you been playing?
Actually, this game was sent to me. Not that I'm saying that I'm like professional or anything. Stones the Revenant. Oh yeah, basically Nintendo sent me stuff, and I,
come on, don't beat yourself up. You're professional.
Yeah, it's called Stones the Revenant, and the best way to describe it is, I found it like a Game Gear game, but it's like a side scroller.
Okay.
Sort of like sort of in the vein of Adventure Island, but there's like 8 different playable characters, and they all have
Wonder Boy.
That's the one. I don't know why I said that.
I don't know why you.
What is it?
I don't know what Adventure Island is.
What is this Adventure Island?
I always get those two mixed up. Sorry, these.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's all about.
Happens to me all the time.
So yeah, there's 8 characters to choose from, and they have all strengths and weaknesses. Some have like melee attacks, some have like ranged weapons, but yeah, it plays like a really fun like Game Gear game.
Cool.
What makes it Game Gear style? Is it the resolution of the graphics, or is it just the gameplay style? Or
it is the graphics, and it is the sound as well.
Okay.
Nice.
Sort of sounds like the FM modulated sort of sound.
Very specifically Game Gear that interests me, because a lot of games have done like, hey, we're a Game Boy game, but not, and it's like, well, what about Game Gear?
Yeah,
I always really liked the sound of the Master System and the Game Gear. I thought it had a really nice, like you can always tell.
Yes,
it's one of those games.
Yeah,
The sound.
I always liked it too.
Yeah.
I always remember I used to like the sound of the Pico as well, because it was sort of like a mix
similar.
of the sound between the Master System and the Genesis,
Yeah.
but it fell more on the Master System side.
It was somewhere in between, I believe. I think it did still have the Master System board inside it, but then
it did have.
It was basically a
did
stripped
share
down Mega
most
Drive
of the.
sound-wise.
It did share most of the hardware of the Genesis. Yeah.
I have
Or
such
Mega
a
Drive, whatever.
I've got such a soft spot for the Master System. It's one of my favourites consoles, and it breaks my heart because I know that Sega are not going to do a classic of it because it's just not popular enough.
What, the Master System?
I'd love a classic. Yeah, Master System classic. That'd be amazing.
They could probably only justify that for Europe and Brazil.
Yeah, that's the other problem. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's still selling in Brazil.
This would still have to be a this would still have to be a worldwide sort of thing.
Yeah, I've already I've already resigned to. Yeah, it just won't happen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what else I've been playing. I have been playing that Pacman Championship Edition 2, and agree with what Gagaman says. It's taken the first one, but made things weird for the sake of weird.
Okay, so it's not just me then, because I've heard a lot of people. When I was seeing like the reviews and stuff, a lot of people were saying they were a bit disappointed with it. But I wanted to give it a fair shot, because sometimes when people were all disappointed about something, I play it and I end up loving it. But so far with this one,
it's just not sticking.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to stick with it for a bit longer, but
I really like the first one.
Yeah,
I really like both of the Championship Edition games.
Okay, I've never.
Although it does take a bit of adjustment because it doesn't work quite the same way as you would expect Pac-Man to.
Yeah, as I say, you can touch ghosts. That's like that's the complete opposite of Pac-Man. That's opposite.
But you know what? It's really exhilarating when you really get in the zone.
Yeah.
But for anyone unaware, Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 is currently available for free on PlayStation Network, Xbox Live Marketplace, and Steam up until May 10th. So if you
this annoyed me on their Twitter. They were like, "Oh, we're putting Pac-Man in every home," and it's like, what about people that just have a Switch?
Yeah.
What about the Switch version, guys?
Now you can get
it is available on Switch as well, but they're not making it free there for some reason.
Exactly.
Maybe Nintendo said no. Who knows?
My theory is it's actually a plus version on the Switch, so.
Or does it have stuff on top of?
Oh yeah, I forgot
stuff
about
on
that.
top of the other versions then?
Yeah, the Switch version has like multiplayer and like stuff for like if you're out and about.
It's not technically the same game. I see.
Technically, yeah.
I guess that's.
I guess not. Maybe. Well, was that plus version never made available on the other platforms?
I looked around, but no.
Not even as a DLC expansion? Dang.
No, I can see, no.
Oh, interesting. I didn't actually know there was a difference.
Yeah. Well, anyway, plus or not, if you haven't picked it up yet, you might as well pick it up now on all three if you have all three accounts, which is what I did.
I'm going to do that, yeah.
I think it's for a few weeks, so...
Yeah, 3 weeks.
It's until May 10th, so you just pick it up before then, and it's yours to keep.
Oh, my granddad's birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday to your grandpops.
On that day.
Well,
I think I'll
go into it another time, but that particular granddad actually was a bit of a gamer.
Oh, right.
I forgot I was.
Right, we're gonna.
I forgot I was torrenting hentai again. I forgot.
Oh, and I thought I was bad, like watching videos of like people's hair being dyed.
I was really worried where you were going to go with that.
Videos where hair colours. Right, we should be back on now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we really do apologise for the outage just there.
Yeah, apparently our internet provider is having issues tonight. And,
it's to be expected. Every provider's running on kind of a skeleton staff at the moment.
Yeah, they kind of are. So yeah, we'll get back to where we were, I guess.
It was where we were at Andrew, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just about. Wait your turn.
No.
Get out.
Oh.
Anyway, right, the final game that I've been playing this week. I did do a stream of it.
Live, by the way.
Yay!
Oh, that's good to know.
That is good to know, actually.
Yeah, it is. Shenmue, of which
we
been
quite
playing...
like that game.
Yes.
On this channel.
Yes. Yeah.
There's clues about. There are clues around that we like that game quite a bit.
Yeah, including the actual channel name.
Spoilers.
It's worth noting I'm also a fan.
I take it by Shenmue, do you mean the HD collection?
The HD collection, yes. Because I got it on Steam for about £2 something. So,
hey.
So yeah,
Nice.
I wasn't. Even though I got the Xbox One version, the PS4 version.
The only one I'm missing is Steam. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought might as well give it a few mods here and there, and yeah, I put back in the Coca-Cola vending machines. I put in the Timex watch, made the graphics look all 4K good. So
nice. Is it all running smoothly?
Yeah.
Because I missed your stream, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's another story. Basically, I had internet connection problems that day as well. But yeah, it does run well because it is an old, like I'll say an old game. Well, it is an old game. But,
oh yeah.
But yeah, it just runs flawlessly at about 30 frames a second. I have tried to get it up to 60 frames, but for some reason the game just doesn't allow it.
It might be one of those games that was designed with 30 frames per second in mind, kind of like Jet Set Radio. That has the same thing where you can't move 60, otherwise it just moves too fast.
30 FPS is just a little too ingrained into the original game's code, so there's nothing you can do about that.
No. But yeah, I'm really pleased.
As long as it's solid, then that'll be fine.
Yeah. It's just weird that
the game worked then, it works now.
Yeah. Yeah, but just walking around as we were, like coming from the Dreamcast version and the other console versions, seeing like Jet Cola everywhere and the Timex watch, and the way having it all back. Yeah.
So you were messing around with like a texture pack for Shenmue, wasn't you?
Yeah. Make it all like 4K graphics. I know it's not actually 4K because basically my PC would melt if it did go 4K. But it looks a whole lot better.
Yeah, the textures are upscaled, so they look a lot cleaner. I think is what.
Yeah, because I remember one of the options had the ability to have like the original textures, didn't it?
Yeah. And
I think what it was is the game let you play it in 480p, which was the maximum resolution of the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Or you could upscale it to, I think it was not upscale, but have the whole thing rendered in 720p. I don't remember.
Something like that.
Or 1080p.
I'll call it 1080.
It'd be pretty weird.
So,
it'd be pretty weird if they couldn't even get it to 1080p, considering the game's age.
Yeah. But if they mess around a bit too much, it will look terrible. So thankfully they haven't done that.
Yeah, have they done a lot of mods for the first one? I think it's mainly the first game, isn't it?
It is mainly the first one. Yeah, I'm not sure why the second game wasn't, modded as much, but
maybe it's harder because it was based on the Xbox One, wasn't it? Too.
Yeah.
Maybe for whatever reason that makes it harder. I don't know.
If anything, I would have thought the Xbox one would be easier.
Yeah, kind of, because it's more.
I don't know.
It's more common, like
maybe there's just something
X
about
stuff.
it.
Yeah. To be fair, they did add in back in the feature where you carry over your items that you had from Shenmue after you beat that.
Oh yeah.
But for all we know, that might have still been in the Xbox code. It's just there was no way to actually use it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. The funny thing about that though is, in the Xbox version, the items they give you they're quite generous. They give you like whole toy sets and stuff, so you can make quite a bit of money at the start. I thought that was the only problem. It was a bit too generous if you didn't have a save file.
Here's all the Sonic the Fighters. Here you go. Just have them.
Yeah. Almost.
Not that I condone any sort of piracy. I did find a certain website was put up a version of Shenmue 2, but for the Dreamcast, but with the Xbox's audio. So you have everything all in English.
Dreamcast.
I do remember seeing that before.
But I've actually played that mod, and I'll tell you right now, the recording of the voice is really bad. Even worse compression.
they've had to, because like going from like the Xbox DVD discs to like the GD ROMs, the amount they've had to crunch the audio down just to squeeze the English voices on must have been.
Just makes you wonder why they bother.
Exactly.
Just so you can get. That's why I took the photo.
Oh yeah, actually no, it makes total sense now.
Yeah.
Your face was asking. Oh, that guy. There is a guy who sounds like someone stuffed like cotton wool down his throat.
Somehow the voice acting in 2 is even worse than 1's. I don't know how, but
I swear they did it on purpose. I swear they were just taking the piss at that point.
they're like, oh, no one's going to buy this at this point.
It kind of seems like they did that a little bit with 3 as well, like because some of the voices are ridiculous.
Some of them, yeah.
Do you remember the woman at the prize
imagine
counter who talks to you like you're a 6-year-old? She's like, "Welcome to the prize counter."
I'm fairly certain they did that on purpose.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of 3 that's been done on purpose, like things to make it as cheesy and tacky as the original.
Definitely.
I always thought the voice acting in Shenmue, like the dub voice acting, makes it feel like an old, like badly dubbed kung fu movie, and that kind of adds to its charm.
That's always been my my view. Yeah. I've always felt like
that makes sense to me too.
It really does. Like that's part of the charm of the whole series, which is why I'm happy they did do it with 3 as well.
It does sound a lot like the old martial arts movies that I remember I used to watch, like some of Jet Li's older movies.
I still remember some of the lines from those films. I can't remember what it was. I think it was a Bruce Lee one, but it's literally this bad guy just goes, "All right, guys, let's beat him up."
Let's beat him up, fellas.
Let's punch and or kick him. So yeah. Anything else? I take it you just played the first one, am I right?
Yeah. Basically, I'm going to try and stream the whole, like from 1 to 3.
Wow.
All back to back. Obviously, not all of them.
We do need to do a proper Let's Play on this channel of 3. We're long overdue.
Definitely.
And we actually have had people asking as well.
I still haven't had a chance to even play it yet, so.
How have you guys not done that already?
Well,
just simply because
lucky hit.
Yeah. Simply because things are even more complicated nowadays than they were when we were doing 1 and 2.
Because
we've all moved.
Yes.
And Gagaman's too preoccupied with Tetris 99.
That'll be it. I have a copy of Shenmue 3. It's on my shelf, but I don't have the console to play it.
But you know what?
That's always a problem.
But you know what? I can't even talk because it took me this long to get to King of Fighters 14.
There we go.
But we will do it. We will do it. I know I've done that thing of promising something, but no. It wouldn't feel right to not cover Shenmue 3 on this channel.
So, thePain, have you been playing anything this week?
Yes, I have. I've been playing GTA, like normal.
Oh, yeah.
Where I've been racking up the VIP mission, which you get about 50 grand each time.
Oh, was that this week where it's double payout?
Yep. And
damn it! I should have been on that thing.
You should have been playing GTA Online again.
Yep. But as I said last week, I was waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake to arrive.
Yeah.
It arrived the very next day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I imagine there's been a lot of that going on.
Yes, I played it nearly 18 hours straight.
Ooh. Wow, nice.
That's what Shield Gamer did, didn't he? He just played it in one sitting.
Yeah, I didn't do that, but I did complete it within 2 days.
Nope, not
I remember I almost played all of the original Uncharted in one sitting, and the only reason I didn't is because the game crashed at some point.
Talking about that, when I completed the final boss, my game actually crashed on Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, man.
On the final boss?
Yep, just finished the final boss.
Did it actually save? Did it let you... Did you have to fight him again?
The system all restarted, and then started right where I left off.
Oh, well,
that's
that.
Basically, so
that's good.
I finished the boss.
Because the bosses in that game are really, really tough, aren't they? I remember on the demo I did the first boss, which in the original game you could do in like no time flat, and he took me like 10 minutes, and it was really difficult. Unless I was just bad.
This one took me about an hour to do.
What, the last boss?
Yeah, because you had to move between locations.
One of them.
And then they had the little cutscenes as well.
So it's not just the first boss, then? It is every boss?
No, it's just the final boss. But it's a big entity, and you've got to sort of cut it down, sort of thing.
If it's at the end of Midgar, I'm trying to think, what was the...
Right at the end of Midgard.
I'm trying to remember what that would have been. It's annoying because I only played it properly. I only finished it properly again last year, the original, but I've already forgotten now. Damn.
Well, I guess you'll find out when you beat it.
I'm going to start hopefully soon.
I will let you know it's a new boss, not.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Well, that's all right then.
They've ruined it. They've ruined it.
They have changed a lot around, and I don't think Part 2 is going to be called Remake.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
From what I'm gathering, it's going to be a completely different game.
I wonder how long it's going to take to do it all, because it took 5.5 years to make this first part.
They'll be done by 2045.
Yeah, it seems like that. Because if it's going to take 5.5 years to make the first bit, which is just Midgar, and as we know in Final Fantasy VII, that's like the first 5 hours in a pretty damn big game.
It's like they're treating Final Fantasy VII like Shenmue.
Yeah.
Except in this case, it's a tale that's already been told.
Not to mention
people are actually buying it.
Yeah, that too.
Not to mention, while they were doing the remake, there was no certain health crisis.
Yeah.
That too.
They were lucky to get that just in time, weren't they?
Yeah, a lot of big games.
Was lucky.
Yeah, a lot of big games.
Animal Crossing was lucky. Doom was lucky. The Sonic the Hedgehog movies be the only movie that actually made bank in the box office this year.
At this point, it was the last sort of big film before it got shut down.
Pretty much the only one this year.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So, what's your verdict on FF7 Remake? Do you approve? Is there anything you don't like about it?
What I've seen of it, I actually like it for what it is.
Yeah, because I know that you are a massive fan of 7, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I've got both original ones in Platinum and the original game.
Nice. Probably. The thing about those sort of original Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 on PlayStation, they always go up and they fluctuate in price, don't they? Sometimes they're worth a bomb, and
the
then
ones on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yep.
They can't make their minds up. Sometimes you go in and they're like £30-40 plus, and then other times you go in and you can pick them up for like a £5 or something. It's just they can't make their mind up. It's really weird.
Goes up and down.
Yeah. They're the only series that seems to do that.
I remember for a long time it was easy to get new copies of pretty much any Final Fantasy on PlayStation for less than $20.
I mean, that should be the case. It was a series that sold immensely.
Square Enix was still selling brand new copies on their online store just a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
The same goes for some of their old PS2 games. That's actually how I got a copy of I think it was Front Mission 4 on the PlayStation 2.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Whichever one it was on the PS2, I forget. But that's how I got my copy of that game.
Yeah. Excellent. Right. So yeah, on the whole, you like it a lot.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm really looking forward to cracking on myself. I'm probably gonna maybe not do it this week because I want to finish off Resi 3 as well as all the other stuff I'm trying to get through.
I still haven't even played the demo. I don't even remember if I downloaded it.
I'll give it a go. It's really good.
Yeah, I didn't have room on my PS4's hard drive, but I recently replaced it with a bigger one, so now I should be able to download it.
Oh, don't even talk to me about space. I'm trying to clear space for everything, really. I had to get rid of Gran Turismo Sport, because that's like over 100 gig.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that game's gotten bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
and I
Final
really
Fantasy.
enjoy that.
Final Fantasy 15 was about 50 gigabytes.
I've still got that sitting on my hard drive.
That's been a major space sink for me as well.
Yeah, and I got to finish Red Dead 2 because that's like over 100 gig itself.
And then there's all the Yakuza games put together.
I was about to say I currently have all of them in a folder installed, and that's a big chunk of my hard drive.
I bet. Right, so with that, I think it's time we shall move on to the news.
Yeah, enough rambling about the games we played.
Yep.
This week in the news.
This might take a while.
Right, so first thing I've got is Sega in Japan. Well, it's mainly Sega in Japan that's doing this, but they're celebrating the company's 60th anniversary at the moment. And
is this with the ads?
Yes. Right. So this is just quite interesting. So in Japan, they have the son of the actor. What was the actor's name? Does anyone know Segata Sanshiro's actor?
I forget his name. It's Hiroshi something, I think.
Yeah. Basically, they got the actual biological son of Segata Sanshiro to play.
His oldest son.
Play as
more than one sons.
Well, yeah. Well, whatever. They got his son to play Segata Sanshiro's son in a new ad campaign just for Sega's anniversary, and these are pretty excellent. There's been a couple of them so far, and the latest one is just fantastic. He's in school, and all these girls keep coming up to him, and he's going, "Oh, is that a Switch?" And he's like, he's got a Game Gear. And he's just like, "It's a Sega," and then they'll be like, "Oh, are those sunglasses?" And it's like, "It's a Sega," and he's wearing the Master System 3D glasses. And then it's like, "Oh, is that a backpack?" And it's like, "Nope, it's a Sega." That's just his catchphrase. It's just Sega Shiro. It's just like, it just keeps saying it over and over again. But then in this latest commercial, a evil masked mysterious kung fu man shows up with like a devil mask on, and his name literally translates to Sega Go Bankrupt.
Charming.
He's called Hatan Shiro, and Hatan means bankruptcy, so he's basically Hatan Shiro or something. And basically, everyone is speculating at the moment this Hatan Shiro is actually Hiroshi, as in Segata Sanshiro. He is actually Segata Sanshiro.
I just looked up his name, by the way. It's Hiroshi Fujioka.
That's the one.
His son, his son is Maito Fujioka.
Yeah. So yeah, there's another bit in the commercial that's quite brilliant where they're like, "Oh, why are you always wearing that jacket?" And he starts like just tears flowing from his eyes, like this little comic book like illustrations show up of him as a kid being trained by his dad, Segata Sanshiro, sort of like forcing him to write Sega over and over again in a book and all this kind of stuff. And there's even like a thing on the wall where it's like, here's the here's the American Sega logo, and here's the Japanese one with the slightly different hues of blue. And
was that what it was? I wasn't
yeah.
sure
And yeah, it even goes into the fact that like Segata Sanshiro dies trying to defend the Dreamcast in that last commercial he was in, where like he jumps on the rocket and blows up in space. So that's actually canonical with this ad campaign they're doing now. But yeah, people were theorizing that this Sega Go Bankrupt is like a corrupt Segata Sanshiro. So I'm just really interested to see where the rest of this ad campaign goes. You know what my game theory is for this? This is gonna lead. I'm probably setting myself up for disappointment, but this is going to lead to a Sega Saturn Mini. Think about it. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this whole Sega Sanshiro thing if it's not to build up towards that? If they're not, and it's just, "Oh, happy birthday, Sega," I'll be like, "Oh, that was cool."
Well, you're not the only person I suspect that has something to do with a Sega Saturn type of reveal.
I mean, it just seems weird to me that they would bring that ad campaign back. I know it was like the most successful ad campaign Sega ever had in Japan. It basically saved the Saturn in Japan. Like it outsold the N64 in the end in Japan. It was
more or less.
It was Sega's most popular console in Japan.
I love that.
It was Sega.
Literally just.
It was Sega of Japan's Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, definitely.
Because I play this console, or I will throw you to the ground.
I'll break your neck. Yeah.
You're gonna kick the crap out of this generic game console, son. I was showing this to other people in Discords. They were like, "Oh, Dad, I want to play PlayStation." And then Sega Sanshiro readies his belt.
Just an amazing ad campaign. I'm just really looking forward to the rest of these new ones.
Son, you're gonna get the high score in Outrun, and you're gonna like it.
Daddy, please.
Ba-doo, ba-doo.
I love that campaign.
It's funnier and funnier the more you think about it.
So yeah,
I love those ads.
That's basically just that so far. It's just been a couple commercials so far. They're also doing this thing on their website where you can just like leave a message and then they'll put all the messages up on the website. I think they've got like a history thing on the website as well. It's all translated in English as well if you want to scroll through it. It's basically Sega of Japan's like list of like the history of Sega. But Sega of Japan's list like interpretation of what's important is very different to what the West's would be.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, this was the year a horse racing game came out. It'd be like, okay. And it's like, this is the year this other toy thing, this baseball bat toy came out that didn't come out outside Japan. It's like, I guess that's significant to them, but you know,
yeah,
their history is very different to ours, I suppose. Our most successful console, the Saturn, came out. It's like, yep, most successful here too, definitely.
Oh God, I wish.
Yeah, if only. You know, if Sega actually bothered to localize some stuff, then maybe it might have done a bit better. But that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah, that's basically all that was. I can sort of segue this into the next bit of news actually, because we've been talking about minis the last couple of weeks, you know, and how they're cool, but the fact that you can't really expand the library on them is a bit of a shame. Like, there's no way you can like add more games in future. You just get the 30-40 games or whatever, and that's it.
I thought this was quite funny because I literally said last week, didn't I?
Yeah.
About this, but go on.
Yeah. So I'm going to plop this one on the stream so people can actually see it. So this is a handheld console coming out. I believe it's coming out in May, 22nd of May. It's called the Blaze Evercade. So Blaze, they're mostly known for doing like the previous Mega Drives before the Mega Drive Mini came out, the ones that, you know, sometimes had questionable emulation. But
aren't you thinking of At Games?
I mean, At Games and Blaze. I think Blaze are like the European distributor.
Did Blaze distribute them in?
I believe so.
The UK?
Yeah, they also distributed the Atari Flashback over here, I believe.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean now.
Yeah. So they're really going full pelt with this new idea, though. They're basically making a dedicated handheld console with interchangeable cartridges.
I mean, this is literally what I want.
Yeah, this thing does look very cool. So it's a handheld, sort of the size of like a PSP, I suppose. It's got a D-pad and all that kind of stuff. I
believe the screen is the same size as the PSP.
I believe so, yeah. Basically, I found out about this because of Digital Foundry. They did a review of it in the week. They got a preview version. And basically, I'll scroll through the website. I've got it on the stream now.
I got the website up too right now.
So what's kind of fascinating about this is the cartridges. So instead of having like an SD card slot so you can just slap ROMs on it and just put everything you'd ever want on it, it's actually gonna... It doesn't have any games built into the system itself, but it does come bundled with one cartridge. But yeah, they're doing these collections of all different developers, but all different publishers, and they're all gonna... What I really love about these is the little boxes, the cartridges.
They look amazing.
The full colour manuals. So they've got 2 Atari collections. it keeps making that noise. They've got 2 Atari collections that are full of mostly Atari 2600 and 5200 games. They have a Data East collection. They have 2 Interplay collections, which is one of the more interesting ones I find.
Yeah.
There's 2 Namco museums, and there's a few other ones. I'll get back to those ones. But basically, this thing can, so far, it emulates the Mega Drive, the Super Nintendo, and the NES. And from what I've seen from Digital Foundry's video, the emulation is actually really good. They I can't remember what the emulator was called, but the one they're using for the Mega Drive is actually like a cycle accurate one that was developed a few years ago. It's like a proprietary version of that. And yeah, apparently the emulation is pretty exceptional. You can plug it in through HDMI. So you can plug it on the telly. So you can play it on the TV as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess the best thing about it, I'm going to say, is the price. It's £60 for the system with, I believe, the Namco Museum collection. And then I think each cartridge is going to be about £15.
I mean, that's fantastic.
And most of these collections have between 10 to 20 games on them.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple that just have a couple on them.
I can't get over the boxes. They look so good.
Yeah, they do actually look nice. I'll give them that.
So even with the Namco Museum ones, it's not just the obvious games that they always have. Obviously, it's got stuff like Dig Dug and all that as well. But then, for example, the second Namco Museum one, it's got Splatterhouse 2 and 3 from the Mega Drive. It's got Burning Force. It's got Philios. It's got all these unusual... Yeah, they're actually putting quite a lot of obscure games on some of these. I think the first...
It's got Weapon Lord. When's the last time you'd ever heard of Weapon Lord?
Yeah, blimey. The Interplay ones, they have both the Earthworm Gyms. They've got Boogerman. They've got both the Clay Fighter games. I can't seem to get off this. I'm trying to navigate this website with this Discord thing. It's a bit strange. And the other ones that are really interesting, just outside of the obvious publisher ones like Data East and that, is they've also got some indie developers involved. So people that make indie games for like the Mega Drive and the NES and the Super Nintendo. So there is the I can't see them on here. I'm trying. Mega Cat Studios one, and the Big Evil Corp and stuff like that. So all these companies that have been...
Oh, sorry. There is a Big Evil Corp collection. I thought that was a mistake.
Yeah, no, there's a couple that are coming soon as well, including one that has both Senna Crisis and Tanglewood on it.
Ooh. Yeah, so that's the... Yeah. Well, actually, only Tanglewood was from Big Evil Corporation.
I believe so. But either way, they're putting both of those on one cartridge. And if that is the price across the board, £15 to own a physical copy of both Tanglewood and Senna Crisis is an absolute bargain.
Yeah.
For a handheld that has really good Mega Drive emulation and can be plugged into a TV as well. That is a much cheaper way of owning that on cartridge.
Yeah.
Really? Than if you wanted to try and get the actual Mega Drive version, which would probably set you back about £40, £50.
Basically. I paid less than that only because I backed the Kickstarter.
Yeah. And then you've got ones like the Pico Interactive one. This isn't an indie developer, but they basically just got their hands on like 20 completely random games, really. They've got all these games that were, I believe they were unofficial releases for the Mega Drive, stuff like Magic Girl and all these like Asian exclusive like unofficial games. But then it's also got stuff like Radical Rex on it and Jim Power The Lost Dimensions for the Super Nintendo. And it's just all these really obscure The Immortal for the Mega Drive, which was published by that was published by EA back in the day, but I guess this company has the rights to it now apparently.
It's got Magic Girl, which I think that one was released by Super Fighter Team.
Yes, that was technically an indie.
That was a shooter. That was a Taiwanese shooter for the Mega Drive. That one I actually own.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
I also had Radical Rex on the Super Nintendo growing up.
Yeah, I had that on Mega Drive. I've still got a Mega Drive copy knocking around actually. And then it's even got like that sort of unofficial Punch-Out a sequel that was on the NES called Power Punch 2, where they like replaced all the characters
2.
with robots. And I just really like this idea of, instead of having, you know, like an SD card slot and you could just put every game ever on it, they're actually making these curated collections of kind of unusual stuff that you probably would ignore otherwise in some cases.
That's literally what I said I wanted last week.
Yeah, pretty much.
I said have little cartridges with collections on. That's exactly. So it's just, I'm really, really happy to hear about this.
It is a really nice idea, isn't it?
Because that also hits with people like us. They like to have a physical thing.
I must admit, when I saw in the Digital Foundry video, he had all the lineup of all the cartridges, like all the boxes. It's like, I kind of want this. Like, there's some, like, for example, in the Namco Museum 1, it's actually got a Mappy game that was never localized on it. Kid, I think it's Mappy Kids. So that only ever got a Famicom release. So there's quite a few games on even the Namco collections are just full of kind of not games you'd think of.
I'll tell you what.
Mappy Kids, that's on here.
Yeah.
One of these collections,
I'm
I'd
not
like to
familiar
see
with that
well, you remember that arcade Golden Axe? I'd love to see that on there.
So that's what I wonder with this, because it's coming out in May and it's already got, like, I guess 12 different collections planned for it. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention that. One of the coming soon ones is an Atari Lynx collection.
Yeah, that one I feel makes a ton of sense, given the Lynx itself was already a handheld system.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, Lynx games have never seen an official re-release before.
I don't think they have, no.
I think there was one planned for the 3DS Virtual Console, but that never happened.
Yeah, so I'll just pop that off now. But yeah, the fact that they're only going to be £15 a pop, it really makes me interested to see how this goes. Like, obviously it's coming out at a slightly awkward time, but it would be really interesting to see how well this sells, because, as I say, it's very affordable. It seems to have some pretty interesting stuff in terms of the games. Like, for example, you can get stuff like Earthworm Jim and all that. And if it does really well, I wonder if any other like game studios will get involved, like any other publishers. It would be nice to see like maybe Konami or Sega or anyone like that start jumping in. And
I was going to say
more systems emulated for it as well.
Because each of these collections have the games officially licensed, that could encourage each of these publishers to dig even deeper into their back catalogs. Because there's already some the collections that are available right now already have some real deep cut.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's my favourite thing about what they've shown so far, is just how unusual some of the game picks have been. Like, even for like Namco, who would normally just go, "I just put Pacman on it," they've actually gotten a bit deeper. They've gone through some of their really good Mega Drive ports and stuff like that, which I was really happy to see.
Yeah, exactly. They've never re-released Weapon Lord before.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not that I know of, but yeah,
they've never done Quad Challenge either. That's on the first Namco Museum one. That was a Mega Drive game.
It was, yeah. I think we had that in the arcades when I was a kid, actually. Like, I think we actually had an arcade cabinet in.
I've never seen the arcade game, but I do have the Genesis version.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just really kind of intrigued to see where this goes, really. Like, I think this is the first time Blaze have actually gone for like an actual dedicated cartridge-based system like this, because obviously they've published like Mega Drives and Ataris that do have cartridge slots for Mega Drive games, but this is the first time they've actually done their own system with its own format.
You know, if they really did distribute at-game systems before, then they'd be the third company that I'm aware of who actually broke away from at-games and released something cool on their own.
I feel like that's what this is an answer to, in a way. It feels like after all the mini consoles come out, it feels like these companies are trying to step up their game.
Yeah, right. Because like Retrobit, a very long time ago, Retrobit used to distribute some at-game systems in North America as well. I actually have one of those things. It's called the RetroGen, and it wasn't officially licensed by Sega, but it was a handheld Genesis console, and it sucked. And then, of course, there's Sega, who doesn't work with at-games anymore. They made their own Mega Drive Mini, and even though you can't officially expand it with extra games, which is pretty much the only advantage at-games has over their systems, they still managed to make something real legit.
Yeah, I'm just really interested to see if someone like Sega would actually want to be involved in this thing, or if they'll just stay out of it, because obviously they've got the Mega Drive Mini out. They want that to sell. But I'll be curious to see if this takes off and goes really does really well. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other companies get involved.
Anything is possible, but when the Mega Drive and Genesis Mini is all said and done, Sega might consider doing something like this. They might even want to do their own handheld, since their work with M2 already went so well the first time.
Yeah.
No, I'd be more interested to see what would happen if Sega licensed their games to Blaze for this system. I'd be curious to see what kind of collections you'd end up with on there.
I would like to see this. I'm really behind this project.
Especially if this thing already emulates Genesis as well as Digital Foundry says it did.
Yeah, apparently they actually got a guy that made the... I can't remember what the emulator is called, but it's like a cycle accurate one. It's one of the only emulators that can actually run some of the... tech demos, like the demo scene stuff.
There's one emulator I'm aware of that can do that. It's called Blastem.
I think it was that developer. It was Blastem. It's a version of that in some fashion. It's like a proprietary version of that emulator.
Yeah, John Burton from Traveler's Tales, he released some of his old tech demos, and I remember he said Blastem was, I think, the only emulator available at the time that could actually run it properly.
Because don't you feel I'm pretty sure this isn't just me, but when you have a system that can emulate stuff and you've got an SD card and you just slap everything on it, you just don't actually end up playing anything. You just sort of dance around. You go, oh, that's
my
that.
problem too. It's kind of a joyless experience, right?
It can be sometimes. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it, really? Because you've got everything at your fingertips, but at the same time you can't decide on anything.
Yeah, that is a problem, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I kind of laugh at people who hack their mini consoles and just put every game ever on it. Because you can do that, but what are the odds you're even going to play more than 5% of all those ROMs?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, not saying you can't do that. If you want to do it, go right ahead. But in my experience, that's one of the reasons why I actually bother to collect old cartridges or discs, because I feel a lot more inclined to actually spend a decent amount of time with a game if I had to pay money for it or jump through some kind of hoop in order to obtain.
Exactly.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
This feels like a good middle ground, because it's not like they're selling individual games to you. It's not like, oh, here's a cartridge of Radical Rex. Here you go. It's not like they're just giving you one game. They are giving you around 10 to 20 games on each collection. So it's a nice in between.
It's also worth mentioning that if you try to get the original cartridges for each of these games, it's going to be expensive when you add them all up. Yeah. And not to mention those cartridges are really old now, so they're not going to last forever.
Exactly.
You know, most of the cartridges that I own right now, they need extensive cleaning just to run.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what other systems they can get emulated on this as well, because they're promising the Lynx coming soon. I think it's June when that Lynx collection's coming out. So I'd be really interested to see if any other developers get involved. You know what I'd really love to see? I'd love to see them try and get like Commodore 64 and maybe Amiga collections going. That would be that would make me instantly buy
do some
thing.
old computers, or do some like something like MSX or the
I was going to say MSX,
the 88, the Sharp, maybe not the Sharp 68,000, but hey, if it's possible, go right ahead. But it'd be really neat to just run the gamut. Just don't even stop at the consoles that everyone's already familiar with. There's a whole universe of games out there.
Exactly, yeah. Hunk Thunder, you were linking to something earlier. There's like actual bundles of this system. You can actually get a bundle with every single game that's confirmed.
Oh wow!
Yeah, on Funstock Retro, basically they have. Well, I got emails from them quite a while ago actually, and basically they're doing the console, all 10 cartridges, which are going to be released at next month, and a commemorative coin, just for basically collectors' reasons.
Bonus,
and yeah, all in.
Looks
it's
like an arcade token.
Yeah.
Maybe a little ironic because none of the games available so far are the arcade versions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all in £150, which isn't too bad considering.
I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
Considering you're getting the console, and I think they do say it's about 119 games in total. And that's whole games, so yeah.
That's pretty damn good, yeah.
I'll just look it up quickly.
Yeah, I was looking at the link, and even the basic £60 one, it does come with Namco Museum 1, I believe, and then they do like a deluxe one, which is Namco Museum, and then I think it's like an additional 2 or 3 other cartridges.
Yeah.
I think that one's about £100 or something like that.
The premium bundle says it comes with Atari Collection 1, Namco Museum 1, and Interplay Collection 1. And with all the games from each of those put together, you're looking at, let's see, 37 games.
Yeah,
even that.
Starter right there, yeah. I'm really interested in this. I just wish it came along at a better time for me so I could get it.
Yeah.
Like get it pre-ordered.
Yeah, I know.
We don't know how quick they're going to be able to make more of these if they sell quickly, which I think they will.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out in the next month. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on how this goes.
Well, this does have the advantage of having come out a few months before the PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 minis.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that
so
isn't
far
technically out here yet, but it's out in Japan, but we can't get it yet.
I mean, yeah, but those came out coincidentally when things started to get really bad. Here, they've already made the Evercade. They've already got a bunch all ready to go.
Yeah, so
very interested. I'm really, I'm going to be following this because I'm amazed. I think it looks a really good product.
Yeah, you should watch. If you go on Digital Foundry, they've got a really good video that sort of explains. How good the emulation. You'll be surprised how good the sound emulation is. And
I gotta watch that later too because I wasn't aware they did a video of it.
That's how I found out about it. That video, I was like, "What is this?" It's like, okay. And as soon as it started going into like, it uses Blastum, I was like, "What?" I wasn't expecting good emulation. I was expecting to go, "Oh, it's a nice thing," but the emulation's a bit blah blah blah. But no,
that's what we see with so many of these things, don't we? They're always like
the only thing I haven't seen a solution for yet is there doesn't appear to be any way to do 2-player unless there's like some kind of other controller that you can plug into it, or maybe it's Bluetooth compatible. I didn't see anything on the website about that.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on the website that mentioned it.
But then again, for like, I wouldn't say. Well, basically, I've got a Blaze Mega Drive handheld game, but obviously that's an at-games thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, 2-player is a bit of a problem on that because there's no way of connecting another controller or putting it up on a screen. So.
Yeah, I can't see anything involving that just yet. That's the only thing. That's the only hole in this whole concept I've seen so far. Is there doesn't seem to be any way to play multiplayer yet. It doesn't mention that you can connect 2 systems together. There doesn't seem to be any way to daisy chain a controller or wirelessly connect a controller.
Damn, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so far I have yet to see anything.
And of course, this has no way of accessing the internet, so online multiplayer is out.
Yeah,
I would expect that anyway. But,
of course, they list that as a selling point because you don't have to worry about like system updates or patches.
Good point.
Yeah. Apparently, the emulators are actually on the cartridge itself as well. They're not like built into the system. So the fact that they're on the cartridge means they can add additional emulators later.
Yeah,
that is clever. Yeah.
And whatever emulators they have, they'll probably be updated in later releases whenever they're required.
Yeah,
if needed. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for the Evercade releasing on the 22nd of May.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I guess last bit of news, which can actually segue into our last little discussion here, is SNK's Neo-Geo is 30 years old.
Hooray!
It was
that makes me feel
da, 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 da.
That's how it goes. So yeah,
Now the Neo-Geo is a real hot dog.
God, I saw that.
So the Neo-Geo released in Japan on April 26th of 1990.
Yeah, this is the arcade one.
Yeah.
The MVS, sorry.
Yeah.
That one came out first in Japan. And then the AES was also available at the same time as a rental system, only in Japan.
Yeah.
And then it didn't come out as a retail release until the next year.
Yeah. So before we go into just like Neo Geo's anniversary in particular, I just wanted to put this little bit of news in there. So SNK are celebrating by releasing a Neo Geo Pocket game on the Switch and PS4, and it's one I've got a little bit of history with because of my years and years of trying to find a cartridge of it, and it's SNK Gals Fighters, which is kind of a prequel, but not really. Sort of like the game that precedes SNK Heroines that
SNK Heroines is. I refuse to believe that game was not inspired in any way by Gals Fighters.
Oh, it was clearly inspired by this game. Like,
I mean, they even added Miss X to SNK Heroines as a DLC fighter. She was the main antagonist of Gals Fighter.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going to be releasing Gals Fighters on, I believe, everything, but I'm not sure which systems exactly. But I know it's definitely coming to the Switch, and it's going to be out on April 29th. And they've also, I don't know if they announced this prior to this tweet, but basically they're saying they've got more info on a Samurai Showdown collection coming out soon.
Ooh.
So I'm kind of looking forward to see what games they include with that. If they put all the Neo Geo Pocket stuff on there. See this.
So the
going
Samurai
back to that
Showdown
Evercade
collection.
thing. Going back to the Evercade thing. If SNK can get involved, can they do a Neo Geo Pocket collection? Please.
It's about time, because to my knowledge they've never re-released any Neo Geo Pocket
This
games.
is actually
Except
second one. This is the second one in recent times, because Samurai Showdown, the remake that came out on consoles recently, the Switch version had a pre-order bonus for Samurai Showdown 2 on the Neo Geo Pocket.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. That was a pre-order bonus for the Samurai
unfortunately,
Showdown
I don't think there's
reboot,
any way to buy it separately yet. But
which really annoys me.
Yeah, I'd love to have that.
They should put it for sale. I remember, like the Atari Lynx, there was also supposed to be plans for Neo Geo Pocket Color on the 3DS Virtual Console.
No way. Why didn't that happen?
I'll never know. It makes no sense to me, because they had Neo Geo on the Wii Virtual Console. This would have been the next logical step.
Yes, it would have been. And I'll be honest, the Neo Geo Pocket is probably my favourite handheld. Like, as like just a general, the complete package of it, its library, the way it feels, that friggin' digital analog stick thing, like the whole, just as a whole, it's the whole package of it. It's my favourite handheld, I think.
Not to mention,
if only it had a backlight.
Not to mention, it could interface with the Sega Dreamcast.
I've never actually tried that, but yeah, I haven't got a Dreamcast communication cable, but I do have a two-player cable.
I don't think that cable was ever officially released, but it was unofficially made available later on.
Yeah, I believe so. But yeah, so the Neo Geo released in 1990, and to say it was ahead of its time, like in terms of like a console you could buy and play at home, is an understatement.
Right? Because this was the first arcade to console conversion that was done completely without any compromises.
Yeah.
Price be damned.
Yeah, essentially you were buying the arcade games for your home. Like the Neo-Geo console is essentially the same hardware that's in the Neo-Geo arcade machine.
And there were other game systems that promised this as a selling point in the past. The Genesis did it, the NES did it, but they were all scaled down in order to make it affordable.
They were still ports.
So
yeah, they were still ports of arcade games that are built from the ground up and not the same as the arcade games.
So they could only say that they got it as close as possible.
But yeah, obviously the problem with the Neo Geo was because it was literally arcade hardware at home. It cost a fortune. It was the Rolls Royce of games consoles. When it released in America, it was $650. And I think the games were at least $150 each. At least.
And it's never gotten any cheaper.
Ooh, if you want to collect for the Neo Geo, the games are going to cost you hundreds or thousands of pounds each.
Some of those games released on the console are among some of the most valuable games ever released in the world.
Yep.
They're right up there with like Mega Drive Tetris.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like even like Metal Slug 1, like if you want to get Metal Slug 1, it's like £5,000 or something like that.
Wow.
But the good thing about SNK is they have made it very, very easy to play Neo Geo games in the last probably 20 years, I guess. You can pretty much play Neo Geo games on everything current anyway. Yeah, they were on Wii Virtual Console. You can get them on the Switch via the Neo Geo arcade archives, of which they've pretty much put almost every single game that ever released on it for like £6 a pop. But yeah,
almost all of them with just only a scant few exceptions. But they even got a whole bunch of third-party games in here.
Yeah, that's what's really good about the Switch ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the Arcade Archives Neo Geo series is also on PS4, Xbox, and on the Windows Store for Windows 10. Not a lot of people know it's on the Windows Store. Not that I could blame them.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I looked at the Windows Store.
Oh, God.
But yeah, Neo Geo is... I think it's up there with Sega for me in terms of... Even though obviously I never owned a Neo Geo console, I did have a Neo Geo Pocket, but just their legacy of games is up there with the best for sure. Like you can get that Neo Geo Mini now as well, which is like a little arcade machine with a screen on it. You can plug into the TV as well. The only thing with that is the joystick's not very good on it, but I think I've heard that some people are starting to modify them, so they've got better controls on them. But yeah.
It's not the easiest modification I've ever seen for any console ever.
But
it's
such a tiny,
people have
cute
figured
thing,
it out.
If it gets cheap enough, I'll probably buy one just because it's so cute. It's just a cute little tiny little arcade machine. It's really cute.
Well, the price has already gone down more than half.
Yeah, true.
I can't imagine.
And it has a lot of games on it. It's got about 50 games on it, I believe.
40 games.
Oh, 40. Okay. And I think it varies between the Japanese and the Western release slightly.
Yeah, and there were some special edition ones that have a slightly different games list. There was Samurai Showdown versions, which were made to market the Samurai Showdown reboot, which had been edited to include every Samurai Showdown Neo Geo game, along with a couple other changes.
Okay.
The only thing is, none of the minis have any third-party games. It's all SNK developed stuff.
Yeah, of course. I think the Arcade Archive by Hamster is kind of the exception. Normally, you'd mainly just get the SNK stuff.
And then beyond that, there's also Visco's games, who, for some reason, Visco decided not to put their stuff on the ACA Neo-Geo series, but they're allowing Josh Prod to do ports on Sega Dreamcast.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Basically, it's an emulation, I believe, but they have actually been putting out physical releases of their Neo-Geo games for
they're
the
using
Dreamcast.
they're using a independently developed Dreamcast Neo-Geo emulator called Neo for All, I believe.
Yeah, I used to use that back in the day.
They've edited it so that it emulates each of these games on an individual level in the best way that it possibly could. Yeah. And all of these Dreamcast ports are based on the Neo-Geo CD versions. So there's that.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Neo-Geo wasn't even the only Neo-Geo console. There was also the Neo-Geo CD, which was basically a way of mitigating the price of the games for the Neo-Geo, because obviously the cartridges cost a fortune. But
it was the Neo-Geo for poor people.
Essentially, yeah.
But it ran the games just as well, and it had some bonuses like Red Book audio in most cases.
And very long loading times. I guess that was its only issue. Is it was trying to decompress such massive games off a CD. It took a very long time.
But the point is, because it was CDs and not cartridges, the games were actually affordable. Mm-hmm. And most of them are still reasonably cheap today.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, about as cheap as retro games from that era are now. I mean, most of my exposure to Neo-Geo games was actually probably on the Sega Saturn. I think the first one I played was actually maybe King of Fighters 95 on the Saturn. That had that extra RAM cart with like the extra data on the cartridge. I think that might have been my first exposure to King of Fighters, if I remember rightly, because that did actually come out in Europe, whereas the rest of them were Japan only.
Oh, neat. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, we actually got a European
that it came out in Europe.
Yeah, it was... I don't own it anymore, but it was really expensive.
I remember my... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I should mention about Neo Geo is just how long it was going for, like how long the games were being made for it. I think the last games came out sometime in like 2005 or something like that.
2004.
2004, there you go.
Yeah, the last game which came out that year was Samurai Showdown 5 Special.
So they were making games for this system for a very long time.
And it would be a few years after that when they'd finally stop doing like repairs on Neo Geo systems, including the arcade.
Yeah, so they were supporting this, both the console and the... Obviously they stopped manufacturing the console long before that, but they were still putting out AES cartridge versions of all the latest games right up until that point. It's obviously it was a very collector's, like, very expensive niche, but the fact that they supported it all those years is kind of commendable.
If it still sells, you might as well. It took Nintendo a long time to I still don't even think they discontinued 3DS.
Oh no, it's still going. So. No, not completely, no. But I was just kind of flabbergasted by how long the Neo Geo was kept alive, like with new games, because basically SNK went bankrupt and they almost completely died off, and another company came along, bought about, and then they've renamed themselves the SNK Playmore, and then they just renamed themselves back to SNK eventually. But there was this really strange era where it felt like they were dead but they weren't, and then they came back, and it was very bizarre, sort of like mid-2000s time. It was a very strange time for them.
Not to mention that during all this, while they were supporting their own console, they were also porting their own games from that console to other consoles.
Yeah, like
they did the Saturn ports that you were talking about.
Yeah,
they did Dreamcast ports. They did PlayStation ports. They did PlayStation 2 ports. I have Metal Slug 4 and 5 on PlayStation 2, which are about as old as the actual Neo Geo versions of both games.
And it just feels like SNK are almost like, when you think of all these old game developers like Ivram and Hudson and Sunsoft and all that, so many of them have either just like disappeared completely, or they're owned by someone else now and they don't make new games. They just sort of licensed the games out. Like Data East is owned by, was it iMode or whatever they're called?
G-Mode Corporation.
And they just license the old games out, and they don't make any new ones as such, other than that Heavy Burger, which is pretty brilliant. But yeah, SNK just kind of feel like nothing can. They've almost been killed like 2 or 3 times, and they just keep coming back, and they're still making games, and they just put out that Samurai Showdown remake, reboot, and it just feels like with all the struggles they've had and all the stuff that's happened to them, pretty much the same thing that happened to Sega happened to them, where they just had to like bail out of the console race. But then they came back to it. It was like, oh no, we'll keep supporting this. We almost died, but we're back again. We'll support it for a few more years.
And then that happened to them again within this past decade.
Yep.
And then they got bought out by another company. So then they went from SNK Playmore back to being just SNK.
And one thing that's quite interesting about SNK as well is just, and the Neo-Geo like library in general, is in Japan you can't go into a single little candy shop for kids without there being a tiny cabinet with a Metal Slug game in it with a Neo-Geo inside it. You know, from Game Center CX, whenever he explores all those little like sweet shops, they always have the little tiny cabinets, don't they? And they always have Neo-Geo games in them, like almost all the time.
It's the same thing here in North America. I've never been to a single barcade or a single retro game convention that didn't have one Neo-Geo MVS arcade. They all have one. There's common games between them. Usually they have at least one Metal Slug and one Samurai Showdown. Sometimes they have one King of Fighters, one sports game, but they always got a Neo-Geo.
I suppose one thing we didn't mention about the arcade machine, what made it unique, was it could actually hold around 4 games at a time inside it, and there'd just be a button on the machine to just change the games. They actually have an original Neo-Geo cabinet in what's that? Neon Knights. Yeah, and it does actually have. I think they've actually got theirs so it actually has more than 4 games in it at a time. I think it might even have like.
They've made Neo-Geo arcades that hold up to 6 cartridges.
I think it might have been 6.
Those were official variants.
Yeah, I think it is a 6th one then. But yeah, it's just got a big change game button on it, and it just changes like because the games even in the arcade they were on cartridges, and they just plug all 4 cartridges in, and then when you press the button it literally just switches from one cartridge to the other.
And that's what made them so popular in the arcades, because the operators, they didn't have to spend much to get new games. Instead of having to replace the whole damn arcade cabinet, they could just pop in a different cartridge like you would with a home game console. And you could have multiple games in it, so that would draw a lot of people's attention. If someone's not into fighting games, maybe you got at least one shooter in there, so that they might like the shooter instead. Maybe they'll like this platformer or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you know what? If your arcade's a fighter's heaven, just who cares anymore? Just load everything with a unique fighting game.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be nice to just chat a little bit about the Neo Geo's legacy and how the company's still going despite everything that happened to them. And like, I kind of feel like Neo Geo is one of those unsung, like for like casual gamers, they're not really that well known. I mean, like when Terry Bogard was announced for Smash Brothers, there were so many people going, "Who?" I was like, "It's Terry!
Really?
He's been in like 40 games. Like, come on, guys!" And,
most of us, we just blew up with excitement.
I was well happy for that.
Most of the gamers in Japan and Latin America, I've seen all their reactions. They were over the moon when they saw Terry.
One of Neo Geo's biggest territories was actually Latin America, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They love the Neo Geo over there in King of Fighters and all that kind of stuff. They just absolutely love it.
I think a lot of it might have a lot to do with why some of SNK's games took place in the around Mexico and the southern areas of the United States.
Hmm.
So like Southtown from Fatal Fury and Art of Fighting, for example, is based off of Miami, Florida, which itself has a large Hispanic community.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really... I just always found everything about SNK and the Neo-Geo, like, all of this stuff quite interesting. So it's cool to hear now it's at 30 years old now. And, like, it was supported for most of those years in a way. Like... And they're still keeping it strong. They're still making the games regularly available everywhere. Like, it's very difficult not to bump into a Neo Geo game on Steam for cheap or anything like that. It's just so easy to play the games now. You can pretty much play them anywhere.
Right. It's like Sega with their Genesis classics, where they're just happy to re-release them to the end of time as many times as they need to.
I mean, it's worked.
Just make sure the games are as accessible to everyone as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep that library available.
Which I love, just for the sake of game preservation.
Exactly, yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to say my first Neo Geo experience was my parents used to take me to a Pizza Hut when I was a very little kid. They had a Neo Geo arcade machine, and I don't remember all the games in it, but two of them I remember I played a lot were Super Baseball 2020.
Oh, nice.
And one of the Samurai Showdown games, but I don't know which one it was. And I was just like I was into basketball. I was also really into baseball, so I played so much of the Super Baseball game. And then at the time, I wasn't really aware of who or what SNK or Neo Geo were, and I wouldn't learn until years later when I went to arcades. My brother and I used to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 all the time, and we really wanted a home version of the game, but we could never have it. And then my mom saw us playing the games all the time, so at some point she bought us what she thought was Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and it ended up being Capcom vs. SNK 2 EO for the Nintendo GameCube.
I would say that's a glow up, personally.
Yeah, but at the time I didn't know that because I was mad. I was mad because it wasn't Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and I had no idea who SNK was at the time. I was such an ungrateful brat. So yeah, I left it sealed in the house for like a year.
Seriously?
And I saw it again. Yeah, for a whole year. And then I saw it again, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give it a shot. It's still Capcom.
My main. That's kind of similar to my first big exposure to SNK was probably I played a little bit of King of Fighters on the Saturn beforehand, but my biggest exposure to SNK was actually Capcom vs SNK 1, and that sort of just introduced me to the characters of King of Fighters and all that kind of stuff. And from there,
and you know what? We're probably going to see history repeat itself now, because now that Terry is in Super Smash Brothers, that's going to introduce a lot of people to SNK vicariously through Terry's inclusion in the game.
Oh, definitely.
And not to mention
the amount of music they included with that DLC.
Yeah, and not to mention that when Sakurai did that presentation video on Terry, he was actually talking a lot about the history of Neo Geo, at least from a Japanese perspective.
Yeah.
So he was talking about what it was, what made it special.
Exactly.
And
he gets it.
And he
gets it. Is what he said.
He does.
Yeah, he totally.
You know what?
He was like, "No, shut up, Neo Geo. Shut up. Stop saying who's Terry. Look at the Neo Geo.
What?
Look how revolutionary it was. Shut up."
Sakurai's talked before in the past about how big of a fan he is of King of Fighters. And he's really good at the game too. He could school all of us in it.
Well, yeah, he could school us on pretty much any game. He's
not to mention, he made a point to talk about the Arcade Archives Neo Geo series on the Switch, and which is the best place to start for beginners of Fatal Fury or King of Fighters. And some of those games actually went on sale during the very first week that Terry was available in Smash.
Did, yeah.
And those games rarely go on sale.
Yeah.
Not that they're all that expensive anyway.
Yeah, I think they kind of are. like £6.29 a pop is all right if you only want a couple games, but when there's over 150 Neo Geo games available,
oh yeah, it's gonna
that's got to come to a
and
lot, isn't it?
And if you're not familiar with these games, you probably don't know which one's the best one to buy.
Exactly.
I can't imagine most people would know the difference between Fatal Fury 2 and Fatal Fury Special.
Yeah, I'd say you can get some of the you can get quite a few Neo Geo games on Steam pretty cheap. I'd say if you wanted to get into Neo Geo games, that's probably a good place to start, just to try some out. Especially since I think the Steam ones have online play as well, I believe.
Yeah, they do have online play. Those games are also on GOG.com as well, where they also have, and GOG also has King of Fighters 13, and recently they added 14 as well.
Oh, nice. So yeah, happy birthday Neo Geo. I know it's a day late, but happy birthday.
Once this podcast's over, I'm gonna play a bunch of Neo Geo games again, and I think that would be a good idea for everyone listening as well.
It worked. Neo Geo is great, is what I'm saying.
And it always will be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Although before we do, I guess it's worth mentioning that I just noticed online that Sega has made Total War Shogun 2 free to download. I assume this is on Steam. So if you want another free game to download, there you go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Again, this is Total War Shogun 2.
Okay. Cool. Free stuff is always good.
You might as well try it. It's free.
Yeah. So, I've been the Gagaman.
I've been a very, very drowned out Cherry Terrier.
You've been out wine again.
The French Water.
The French Water.
French Water.
French Water.
I've been Murry Curry.
Yeah. I've been Hunk Thunder.
I've been
not Gagaman.
I can't think of anything.
I've been
funny.
Wash Your Hands.
I was going to say that, but it sounded stupid to me.
I've been turned the page, then wash your hands.
Who are
you washing your hands yet?
Yeah, but you got to turn the page as well.
You wash your hands and then turn each individual page? You're gonna dry your hands out doing that. You're gonna reduce your hands to bones. Was that a Pikachu?
Yeah, it is. It's
I don't know what you're
Pikachu.
talking about. What are you talking about?
It's that Pikachu.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ah, yes, very interesting. Pikachu. You should be a guest on the stream next week.
He's already a guest right now.
What the hell took you this long to show up, Pikachu?
He's gate crashed.
Yeah, he had microphone issues.
Damn it,
Alrighty. Is thePain still with us, or has his microphone gone again?
I'm here.
Hey.
Hello, Mr.
Actually,
Pain.
I'm the Pain.
You've been thePain, and
No.
Elk has been Elk, and I really want to go to bed.
Right, so
Until next
it's
time.
not over till it's over. It's not over till the Pikachus. Okay, it's over.
Jesus.
There we go.
We're just
Okay,
gonna keep
it's
stalling for time.
It's over now. It's over now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.